North American stock futures once again pointing to a relatively flat open coming up here this morning. We were negative to start things off as investors and markets remain cautious with rising COVID cases front and center once again heading towards the end of the week. Also in anticipation of the Fed meeting coming up next week, guys. We'll learn about the possibility of tapering coming up on the 21st is when the next Fed announcement will happen. Coming into the month, we talked about the negativity surrounding the month of September overall. The markets are actually positive on the week so far, ever so slightly, but still down for the month of September. It's quad witching. We're going to talk a lot about quad witching options expiration. Two sets of options. Arun is here today. He's going to fill you in on what to expect for quad witching. We had positive economic data yesterday, if you remember, with August retail sales data, much better than expected. That initially had things back in positive territory, only to see things sell off once again. We're going to talk a lot about some low float squeeze stocks moving around here in the pre-market once again this morning, and Lucid making moves 3 days in a row to the upside in the pre-market for Lucid. It's Friday. We made it to the end of the week, September 17th, 2021. tradertv.live starts now. Well off the lows from early in the pre-market here, still negative for the S&P and the Dow. The NASDAQ, yeah, exactly flat at this point. You can see the TSX futures here in Toronto pointing to a lower open, Brazil open as well, trading to the downside. Crude's off a little bit. Ethereum down 1.5% today. We saw the reverse yesterday. Bitcoin positive today, but it was backwards from yesterday. Ethereum positive, Bitcoin slightly lower. We'll see what happens with crypto markets coming up here as well. As we mentioned, Arun is in the building today, sitting in for Sean. Happy birthday, Sean. I know you're probably not watching, but it's Sean's birthday today. He's 34 again.
24.
He's 5 years out of high school, remember?
Right. So happy birthday, Sean. Anyways, guys, it's Friday. It's quad witching, which is going to be the story of the day today. Lots going to happen towards the end of the day at the close. We're going to talk a lot about that.
Also maybe at the open as well. Sometimes you get a little extra volatility. Welcome everybody. It's Friday, end of the week, quad witching. I'll extend the happy birthday not just to Sean, but to his brother, because they do share the same birthday. We go way back. Actually, Sean's brother once traded on the floor that Sean and I ran for at least a few years, so that was a lot of fun. There's a lot moving already. I can talk about that IPHA. That's one of those pharma. It's on the watch list. Lower consolidation, short that one. Starting to work to the downside for me. But Dutch brothers, and yeah, maybe we ought to go to Oklahoma, because that's apparently the closest one that we could find. Someone was telling us in the chat yesterday. But that 52 top from yesterday's action, well, I guess we're already there. Now, I'm not taking a breakout at 8:20 in the morning on a stock which is as thin as this, which has spread sometimes 20 to 30 cents. But yeah, I could scratch off a $50 break on this. I do like some dip buys. I'm telling you, there's all kinds of moves in both Bros and then ON, which is that shoe company that IPO 2 days ago, backed by Roger Federer. So lots going to be moving here today on quad witching, Arun.
Yeah, I mean, that's for anyone who hasn't traded quad witching, today's close is going to be exciting. You're going to see some movement in the morning as well, and I'll get more into it and explain more about it and the future side of things as well. But just expect volatility at the end, a little bit at the beginning, and then quite a bit at the end. And it's good thing now this show, last time we did quad witching, I don't think this show was going on until 3 o'clock. And now here we are able to take you guys into the close and kind of guide you through it, if anything. So just be aware, volatility towards the close, especially in the final half an hour. And after the final 10 minutes, it's going to get exciting, guys.
Why that happens a little bit further coming up here this morning. Beyond Meat, guys, just popping up on a volume scanner here, trying to take out yesterday's high. If you remember, we had a decent reversal on some McDonald's news late in the day yesterday after a downgrade. So decent level there, 108.50 on BYND being tested currently. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's get over and say good morning to Miss V.
Good morning, team. Happy Friday to you all. Let's have a wonderful day together. I wish you all the luck and remind you to like this video. Let's get it started, Brandon.
Let's indeed get it started, guys. We'll talk a little bit about the market. We'll talk a little bit about what's moving around here in the pre-market, but worth mentioning, coming in this morning, obviously, there's a big event, big market event that's going to happen. So relatively quiet at the end of a relatively quiet week. We have had some decent movement in the overall market, but individual stocks, not a lot happening this morning. We will touch on some of these big high flyers that we've seen throughout the week. BBIG, I just noticed starting to move around here a little bit as well, guys. But a bit of a quiet week, but we're coming into an interesting Friday here.
Yeah, it's weird because when we say a quiet week, I understand that the market's not necessarily doing too much, but I look across the board and it's just there's so much that's moving. And there was a question in there. Someone just messaged short Beyond Meat, and I'll quickly say to that, not really thinking about it. Yesterday was yesterday off the downgrades and that's on that resistance level, but when they got the news to the high, now you're looking at taking out this like 108.50. I want no part of shorting this level. If it got to like a 112, something like that could be interesting. But overall, I mean, the story has been finding the peripheries of the markets, like the two IPOs that were talked about, like your Iron Nets, your OPADs, because truth be told, overall we're not exactly seeing a huge move out of the range. And I always say that, like, every time I pull up a chart when you're not here, when I say I'm not Arun. But if you look at the range on the NASDAQ, it's not like we're breaking out of much of anything, right? So, at the end of the day, you've got to find what the movers are going to be. Everyone's been afraid of pullbacks and corrections, but we kind of broke down to the bottom end of this range that we had last week and then held the next level. So and we're continuing to do so. We're actually flat on the session. One thing I will say, I'll get this out of the way. I know Arun wants to talk a lot about witching and some of the mechanics behind it. It's not ever the worst idea to have at least a little bit more caution right at the open, especially in some of the larger cap names, because you can have large opening orders that'll come through. Sometimes letting the stock open up and settle down can make sense. There's other names where you might be comfortable taking the breaks, like the IPOs. It might not be too bad of an idea. Some of the small caps might still trade the same way they would before that you're accustomed to, but I'd be at least a little bit cautious taking those opening breakout or fade trades on names that you could expect to have heightened imbalances going into, especially today, quad witching.
Yeah. When it comes to quad witching, let's just kind of put the basics out of it first. The reason why you're going to have volatility, one, quad witching side of things, you have the futures expiring. So the stuff that I trade, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, the September contracts are all going to be out of commission after today. So you have that. You have the index options expiring. That's the second portion. Then you have stock options expiring. That happens the third Friday of every month anyways, but this one is coinciding with the index futures as well. And then you have the single stock futures also expiring. So the four components, which is why it's called quad witching, they're all expiring today. And with that, you're also going to get paired action in rebalances from the indexes themselves. So the S&P 500 is going to make adjustments, NASDAQ is going to make adjustments, the S&P, the TSX side is going to make adjustments. So there's a lot of adjustments being made on top of all the other expirations happening. You have index options, which is probably going to add some volatility to the stock side of things. Stock options adding volatility to the stock side of things. So there's a lot happening, and that's why you get this excessive activity right into the close. So the imbalances we're going to see going into the open are going to be larger than what you're used to seeing, and then imbalances going to the close are just going to be absolutely insane. Now, there is research out there, I don't know if you can find it online, but there is research out there that gives you data on, it might be private data research, but it gives you data on how many shares need to be done by who for how much. That kind of gives you an indication of which direction stocks will go. But at the same time, that really just kind of gives you an idea. But by the time you get to the end of the day, things could come out completely differently because there might be oversubscription in some rebalances and things like that. So just be aware that rebalances will be extremely large going into the close and will be unusually large going into the open. On top of everything else happening with the expirations, there you go. That's volatility for you, and that's what makes this kind of a day, once once every quarter, right? 4 times out of the year, and September and December are left for us. So just understand that expect some volatility for the open and the close.
Yeah, a lot to discuss as we head towards the final hour of the day. So make sure you guys come back and join us at 3 p.m. Just reading a note here, guys, on 3M, from Jeffries, talking about some supply chain troubles that may spill into 2022, which was longer than the company itself had initially talked about. So not a lot of volume here, but 3M to the downside. I mean, we're coming into decent levels over here on the daily chart, though, for 3M, guys.
Yeah, they're not always a sexy name. It's a good company, an old company, but it's like, oh, come on, chart. Here we go. As I was looking at it, load. Yeah. Always one of those things where like, how are the charts going to behave today on witching day? We're talking about this, and I apologize, I already forget the name that we're mentioning in yesterday's action, where someone had asked, do you want to dig in? It wasn't Las Vegas Sands. It was another strong sort of company, and I was sort of saying everyone expects the worst. The supply chain issues that are happening across the world are actually getting worse in a lot of ways, and I kind of feel like when you get these types of warnings, it just gives you cover to hold off, because, I mean, I'm going to pull up the chart now so you can see. Like, it always seems like there's good value when you get 10%. People looking for 10% retracements on companies that they like. And I think we're in a little bit of an environment where if you're already getting these 10% pullbacks, maybe even a little bit more than that, what you believe to be a solid name, while the market is resisting any kind of a correction, like a 5% correction, that just tells me that you want to wait on some of those stocks. It makes me like, oh, but it's gone too far, it should turn. I'm like, I don't even know about that. If it's got those concerns, wait for like a 175. And I think you can get there, get a little bit more picky when it comes to buying dips. We're actually going to be releasing a video about this where, spoiler alert, I was talking about Danaher, a great healthcare company that I like, and I'm just being ridiculously patient with it. I'm begging for a 10% correction on something like that. And I think 3M is going to fall into the category of allow the trend to work for you if you're looking for entry points. This would look juicy for a short setup. I mean, you're going to look at this and like, oh, but look at this level here at 180, $5 to the downside, clear trend after a flush. Maybe you get some negative headwinds. Yeah, but 3M does it's on 5,000 shares in the pre-market. That's problem number one. Problem number two is just how ridiculously whippy it usually is, and not always like the cleanest in the world. So, and then of course it's witching, where I wouldn't want to mess with this thing at the open on a breakdown anyway. So all those are reasons, and valid reasons on a day like today, that you don't have to jump down to take a 180 break. Things that set up on the chart, just make sure that they're not going to have big imbalances on them, especially if you're doing opening and closing breaks. Just make sure that there's some pre-market volume behind those moves and behind those levels, just so you don't get trapped in something here.
Yeah, you're talking about imbalances for the open. I figured I just pulled up our NASDAQ, New York feed. NASDAQ feed we don't get until 9:28, I believe. I'm just pulling up the New York feed and making it big enough so everyone can see it. Just give an idea of what the imbalances look like for now. Hopefully everyone can see this. Hopefully this is in your face. For now, and this is like, we're still 45 minutes away from the open, and these are going to change obviously, but again, we already have the big names, the Bank of America, the Fords, they've already got buy-side imbalances for now, so it looks like a decent buy-side imbalance going into the open for now. And 2 million, 1 million here, WFC has 1 million, KO has 1 million. Again, those are all names that can handle that kind of share size. It's not going to do a whole lot in those stocks. MMM, okay, 3M. So 3M, I'm looking at this chart from the multi-day perspective here. This is the 5-minute chart pulled back. I was looking at this 182 to 180, area as this chart loads. We've been bouncing around here, since the 13th and the 14th, and then looks like yesterday morning. If we can maintain, and that's the key thing here, if we can maintain trading below here and any attempts to buy back up or shot back down, then I think the short could be on the table for 3M. It's just sitting at an interesting location because every time we've been down here, we've been supported. So it's a matter of, are they going to support this one more time, or is the support or the attempted buyback from this point going to get shot down? And that's what I'm looking for. So 3M around this price, it's going to have to be after the open, but whatever happens, it's going to give an option to either go for the short or go for the long, because the long could be playing off support, short could be playing off the failed attempt at bouncing off of support. So those are the two options. It's sitting at a nice location, so we'll just keep an eye on 3M going into the open. As Neil said, though, imbalances will move this, so I would just avoid the first few minutes of it and then get involved. As long as they can maintain that sell side activity below 82, 182, then I think shorts could be on the table there.
Let's get a few other ideas. Michael Noss is a chartered market technician with Trade Ideas and joins us once again on a Friday morning. Great to see you, Michael, as always. Let's talk fintech. Hot topic right across the board. You had some interesting ideas, though, when it comes to smaller names in the fintech group. We stick to, or typically like to stick to, and talk a lot about the bigger fintech names. But tell us about some smaller ones.
Yeah, again, at Trade Ideas, we have a machine learning AI that we basically teach to trade the market from some talented traders that we have here. And I like to parse through the data for you guys and try to see if there's any trends going on. And what we've kind of noticed right away is that a lot of the bigger fintech names have been doing great in this market, where a lot of the smaller fintech names have been kind of struggling a little bit. So I have some charts prepared for you guys. The first one being essentially the, if we can just go up to the top with ARCF versus SPY. And ARCF is essentially Kathy Wood's fintech ETF, in which basically she's looking to participate in kind of smaller fintech charts. And I have one here that shows the two charts side by side. One is ARCF, again, and the other one is the, sorry, up to the very first chart there at the top of the list.
We'll get to it's the two charts there, Lucas. It was the first one, I believe, that was in the file. If you find.
Yeah, we'll go top to bottom on this one. Sorry.
Okay, it might not be available.
That's fine.
Well,
anyway, if you bring up ARCF, which is Kathy Wood's ARC Fund ETF, and you compare that to the S&P 500, you'll notice that it's really been underperforming recently. A lot of Kathy's ETFs have been underperforming just because they're more in the growth type sector. So what we've noticed is that if the market is going to turn, and we talk about a lot about how September is kind of a bad month from time to time, and you know, it's historically the worst month out there. We notice that if we're going to turn into a bear market, or if it's going to turn a little bit weak, we want to short where the market is already weak. So you can see here that, again, this ETF has been underperforming the market. It's been choppy, where the market's been relatively strong over the last 6 months to a year. So we'll start going down, I guess, through the charts right now. First, we'll look at TCBI. Essentially, this one, you can see the call from the AI short around 60, pulled back for a few days, and then is now putting in this nice kind of tight base right below that area. So we're looking for this to break down on if we can get under kind of 46.50 low. Again, this is a smaller fintech company in the banking sector, something that, again, we've noticed that this will be the theme for the rest of the charts that I'll go through. So let's go to KPLT next, which had a little bit of a gap down maybe a month or so prior, and then kind of rallied up, tested that gap. And this is something I know you guys like to trade a lot, and I like to as well. When you have a prior support area that now becomes resistance, that's sometimes a good place to take a turn. So again, about $6 is kind of what we're looking at here. If we can kind of break down or hold below $6, that's where we'll be interested. Next will be PATH, P-A-T-H. Same kind of move, where we had this gap down that the AI recognized was under a large area of support on the daily. We've gapped under that. We've been basing along it. And again, it looks like if we can get under $53 or thereabouts, that's where we'll look to take it. We'll just go through one more real quick with OLB, which looks the same as KPLT there, where again, we had a couple sell signals as it failed to retake this gap. It kept coming up and bouncing against this prior support area, that turning into resistance, and then pulling back down from there. So I think that will be all we'll get through today.
Yeah, it's an interesting sector, obviously, an interesting topic to keep an eye on as you see that kind of divergence that we're talking about between some of the hotter, obviously more popular names that you hear about on a daily basis versus some of these smaller stocks, but worth keeping an eye on. Michael Naus, Chartered Market Technician from Trade Ideas. We appreciate your time as always.
Thank you very much for having me.
Have a great weekend. There we go, guys. A little bit of a look at the fintech space. As I said, you know, a space that we typically look at, you know, when it comes to the bigger names, but always worth, guys, looking at some of the smaller ones as well.
I mean, path is one that I think we had talked about on the show. I know Sean was bringing it up recently. So, you know, it's just one of those things where it's always going to, people usually have an understanding of, you know, a couple of names within an industry, maybe the bigger ones, and then you kind of sleep on these other trading opportunities, which a lot of times can end up being better. And I'll, you know, you throw some names out there, like I actually was just talking about it in healthcare, like Danaher, and people have never heard of, a lot of people have never heard of Danaher, and they've outperformed UNH, and I look at iPath here. If volume is a tricky thing today because, you know, it just piqued my interest because I mean the setup looks really, really good on UiPath, but I just look at this pre-market volume here and it being witching as well. I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll check back in at 10 o'clock for a chance to hold some of these levels at this 56, especially. But before we go too deep into this, I want to get to or get back to Bros. And speaking of Bros, I got to show this one off because Sterling, I know you've been up all night, Sterling. Please don't overtrade. Like, that's been trading apparently Smile Direct Club all overnight. But he did send me this because we don't have Dutch Brothers. So this is like now me seeing Dutch Brothers, and I'd love to try it out. But this stock has been absolute fire since the IPO. Just to look at the drive-through there, I don't know. He sent it to me, and I was like, yeah, let's show it off here, and why not? So thank you very much, Sterling, for that. But 52. Yesterday, you had a 40 level, which we had talked about a couple of sessions ago in the afternoon about how there was I wanted to call it an algo seller because it happened so fast. I can't imagine a person actually did it when it failed, broke 40, and then someone just jammed short immediately, then barcoded. You could then short it after and then take a nice little winner. I only took half of what actually the move was. And you come in the next day and that same 40 level gives you the break in the pre-market. Well, now we're staring at an over 25% move to the upside here, 30% move if you break through this 52 level, which is insane. But that's what we're looking at right here on Dutch Brothers. Could be crazy. Just because I missed out yesterday, I'll take a shot, but for smaller size, if 52 were to break, and just see if it can make another quick little move. Maybe a scalp trade. The spread opens up on this big time. Like, I'm looking at 30 cents. I've seen 40 or 50 at times. So there's always a price you won't pay. I'm not crossing up 50 pennies. I'll probably only cross up like 15 to 20. And if I don't get it, I don't get it. I think it's a more reasonable thing to do with a stock this volatile.
Yeah, Neil's over there looking at Dutch Brothers, and this is what I'm looking at on Dutch Brothers, the menu, guys, because that's what's more important than the stock right now, at least from my perspective. All right, let's go back to the stock. Okay, Dutch Brothers. New York stock, I see it, 52. They hesitated at 52 yesterday. Did it have volume yesterday, though? Oh, it did. Okay. So 52 is obviously the closest area that you're working with right now. They've consolidated strong, it looks like, because we came back under 50 into the close, and now we're creeping back above 50. So I'm keeping an eye on 50 and 52. Obviously, 52 is the easy move to the upside, but if 50 can hold, then the 52 makes sense. If the 50 can't hold, so let's just say there's a swipe back down through 50. At that point, I don't know how confident I would be with the 52 break, but as Neil said, since this IPO, back in the 30s, here we are at 52. At some point, it's going to have to take a break. Is that going to be today by making a false move? Those are the things that you do have to factor in, but at the same time, you can't ignore the strength of this. So I'm just keeping an eye on this, see if we can maintain strength above 52, and if that's the case, then the long is in play for, if we can maintain strength above 50, then the long is in play for the 52 break to the top.
Yeah, amazing couple of days for that one. 23, remember, on the IPO price for that, so it's doubled in 2 days. Upgrades and downgrades, guys, here. There's that UiPath on this side today. Barclays liking that one. Ryanair listed over in the UK, but there's an ADR that trades in the US. Zoom Info, Aurora Cannabis, FedEx. Yeah, Jefferies and Argus ganging up on the casinos once again. It's been a bad week for them, guys.
It really has been. That is one thing that we did. We got a lot of questions asking about, like, what do you do with like an LVS? Is this a great buying opportunity? And it's so easy to look at the charts. We keep talking about these March lows. You have to go all the way back because, and when I say March lows, we're talking about, like those COVID lows. And when you get all the way back here and it's already made a double bottom, it seems so enticing, right? But when was the last time, and I dare anyone to, this is actually an open challenge, like when was the last time you had an opening salvo from the Chinese government with sort of a discussion of regulation or discussion of crackdowns in a particular industry, and then this is the first time they're mentioning the casino industry recently, and then there wasn't a second salvo, like further comments or actual action, right? Like it never seems to end there. And I look back to like an Alibaba, when we were first talking about BABA being value and the Chinese regulatory risk is too much, that was at 225. Like I remember it distinctly, and now here when I'm like, oh, this seems like it's the bottom, we're down at 160, 150, 160 levels. So I kind of feel like, this is a different story, obviously, because their entire business isn't about Macau. But at the end of the day, I think you can be at least a little bit patient with them. And if you like the space, fair enough. There's MGM as well, which maybe has a little bit less risk. Caesars is a good place that you could be in as well. You can even dip over in look, it's just, there's numerous names. I think you can wait on an LVS. I wouldn't even be thinking about buying this dip until at least maybe next week or so as things settle down. I know it looks pretty solid. The fact that, we're trying to, you break through on the news and then you're actually going to hold this low, the 36.5 here. You're holding that low and now we're cresting above it. It looks fantastic for a wipeout double bottom, but at the end of the day, remember, this is headline driven and you might want to let those subside a little bit. And oh, there goes CRVS through the high of the day. I'm not looking to short that one, by the way. It just seems a little bit strong to me.
Yeah, you mentioned Caesars. So I took a look at Caesars because I remember it was actually, when I was here maybe a few weeks ago, it was in the news for something. It made a big move, and I was looking at it at that point. So I looked at the chart and see how it's been trading. It's actually not trading like the other names. Las Vegas, MGM, and Wynn are all slightly flat to the downside. This is actually trading strong, nice little trend. 110 seems to be the top end. And they are working that 110 because we've bounced off that around 108 going into that 110 area, call it. Anytime you get close to a round number, I think you got to give it space. So $1 in front, maybe $1.50 in front of that round number could be called resistance. In this case, 109, 108. Sitting in front of that 110, and we've hit that multiple times now. Here we are working that 108, 109 again. I think if you take 110, you really have a chance. In this case, between my options here, between Wynn, LVS, MGM, Caesars, if I'm going to play in that little sector there, I'm going to want to play with Caesars in this case, just because the chart looks so much better. So 110 break to the upside, 107. I'm just waiting to see that they can actually get some strength through this area. Because given how much time we've spent here, I would imagine there's enough resistance to kind of slow this move, at least at the open. Even if the 110 goes, I want to see how much selling comes in after it goes. If there isn't a whole lot at that point, I think a long's on the table.
All right, yeah, we'll keep an eye on the casinos, the hotels as well. I noted Hilton, Marriott as well, also down on the day yesterday. So possibly some follow through to come. Let's get into what is moving around, guys, in the pre-market. That is the link you need to go to grab the absolutely free morning watch list. We send it out every morning before we come on at 8:30. You just need your email address. Miss V will help you out in the chat if you need that link once more. Robinhood, not really doing a heck of a lot here in the pre-market, guys, but worth a note. We saw some movement in Tesla the past couple of days after Cathie Wood's ARK Invest made some moves, some selling in Tesla's case, and in this case as well. So apparently she has sold 34.2 million worth of shares of Hood over the past couple of days in both the Next Generation Internet Fund and the Innovation ETF, guys.
So we saw this play out with Tesla, as you aptly mentioned there, Brendan, where you had a couple of days of clearly she was selling, and then Tesla in a weak market actually holds support, and you're basically seeing the same thing again. Look, man, you don't know. you don't know exactly where all this was executed, so there's some conjecture here, I suppose, as to how well it's held up. But I will say this: you have made a bit of a jailbreak, fail break at that 40 level to the downside. On the daily chart, you saw that tight cluster. These are all wicks to 42.50, but that is going to stand out a little bit here. So Tesla made a nice run. I mean, it wasn't a gigantic one, but it made a nice run after that news sort of came out and gave you some trades there. And I'm looking 42.5 on Robinhood. The volume is really low, and I know we haven't been trading Robinhood since, you know, I mean, a couple weeks ago, you can actually see that executions back here on the 24th of August and the next day as well. But you know, we've been backing off of it, and there haven't been tons of volume spikes that were to the upside, been mostly to the downside here. And I'm looking 42.5 for a break. I won't put this stop order in pre-market. There's just absolutely no volume whatsoever. So if it goes, you're not going to see me execute it into this. I'll probably have to wait until after 9:30 to make this trade. As I also look over at Dutch Brothers, which just touched 52 for the second time today, and of course yesterday it had a 52 high, and then immediately pull back $1. So like the bid just fell almost over $1 there. Very, very thinly traded stock. The spread is still 50 cents on that name. Another one that I'll take the break on it, but I think, like I said, for fewer shares, and I won't even do it until after the open. Some of this is a function of volume. Some of this is certainly going to be a function of the fact that it is witching as well today.
Yeah, I'm looking at Hood, and there isn't a whole lot that I can really do with Hood. It's not really a stock that I've traded a whole lot anyways, even since it opened. But I do have a question. In the chat, there's somebody that ETD keeps bringing up the Evergrande situation in China.
Yeah.
And I get it, but I'm not sure how. I'm looking at who has the most bank exposure. So if you can help me understand who's got exposure here that we can trade right now, because I'm looking into it and I can't find that kind of detail. So if we're going to trade that, which we would love to do, I would like to know which direction to go in, because I have no clue who's got exposure, right? We can't trade Chinese stocks here right now. There's no ADSs, I believe. So in terms of exposure, that's the only the thing we can go with. Who's got exposure from the bank side, and who's it? It's a Credit Suisse. I would love to know that detail, because I'm looking for it. I can't find anything, because I would love to be in that, trying to play off of that anyways. But for now, though, it's more of a question for you guys, because show us, help us, because I have no clue, and I'm still looking for some more info on that situation.
We talked about the major market move or market change that is going to happen as far as a rebalancing today. It's quad witching today. Arun, walk us through how you approach trading the futures on a day like this and what everyone needs to know.
What are we doing? Futures?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right.
That thing you do every day?
Yeah, well, I don't know what time it is. I'm looking at, I'm actually looking, like I was saying, I was looking into that, the whole thing, the research thing. Anyways, futures. The issue with the futures is that after the rollover on Thursday, with Friday taking over for the December contract, that being the first day of the front month, and then coming in on Monday, where December was exclusively the only contract that was going to be traded with most volume. Obviously, September was still around, but most people had moved over. Since that day, there has not been a whole lot of tradable activity. There has been activity, though, but there hasn't been a whole lot of tradable activity, unless you're able to pinpoint the times when the programs are going to be active, especially earlier this week in the 70s, and it seemed like in the low 40s. Apart from those moments, it was not an easy trade at all. The levels were identified, but the issue was that they weren't setting up well. So the ranges that I've got are 44.90 on the top end, 44.25 on the bottom end, and it's a wide range. It's the same situation as yesterday. Anything above 70, at this point, I moved it down from 75 to 70. So anything above 44.70, I'm looking for shorts. Anything below 44.50, going on down to preferably 44.45, I'm looking for longs. And then obviously the edges are going to be the stop outs, right? 44.90 would be the stop on the short, and then 44.25 would be the stop on the long. Now, if we broke either side, then you can actually say, oh, you know what? This has been a multi-day consolidation. First week on the December contract, full volume, and we finally got a breakout. And then that could actually expand the market, whether it's to the upside or to the downside. But for now, it's just a matter of waiting and seeing how it wants to play out. Because my concern is not necessarily the way it's been trading, is the amount of activity that's going on at the points. So below 44.50, there was a lot of program buying being done earlier in the week that supported really well. Now 44.25 is established, but up until that point, they were supporting 44.50 going on down very well. And it came in waves too, especially earlier this week. It came in waves as we moved up like 10, 20 points, and then just taper off a little bit, and then again we went. So for now though, I'm looking at that support point, 44.50 going on to 44.45 with 44.25 as your stop. And then if we get into the 70s and I can't catch along, then I'm gonna look for the short, same situation as yesterday. If we can get some shorts up there in the 44.70, 44.75 area, again, they have to set up. We're inside of a range that's been established, so they have to set up. I'm not a fan of just stepping in just because we're at the top end of the range. Because if the momentum is strong or the programs are strong on the buy side, they're gonna blow through that range, and then you're gonna caught in a position that's not gonna be pleasant to be in. So for now, understand that you're trading in a range, trade accordingly, and if we get that breakout, then you have that breakout trade, which is even that much better. This kind of volatility coming in at the end of the day with the rebalances, that might give you enough to get this breakout done at the end of the day. If we were to look at the imbalances this morning, let's just take a quick look at the imbalances for now. We're still about 25 minutes away, but now New York has its imbalances out. What do we have? All those big names that had the imbalances, those are gone. You see how things change, right? And now NEE has a buy side of 2 million, Exxon has 1.5, Esso has 1 million shares to the buy side. Again, these numbers are changing. This is the New York side of things. We still don't have NASDAQ just yet. NASDAQ will come in soon, in about 20 minutes or so. So we're gonna wait for that, and then we'll get a better understanding of how this morning is gonna go, at least from the imbalance side of things. And then from there on out, we'll make whatever we can trade, we'll trade throughout the day. And then obviously towards the end of the day, that's when things really get moving. As the rebalances, that information gets put into the system and we get to see how big they really are.
All right, it's been a volatile week for some of these low float squeeze type of stocks. We've had a number of them flying around here all week long. IRNT seemed to be the biggest mover this week. We had SDC as well, Smile Direct Club, pop up over the past couple of days. Worth having a look at this group once again, guys. It's worth noting, though, I mean, IRNT has done absolutely nothing this morning. It is lower from where we ended yesterday, but Smile Direct leading as far as volume.
Yeah, and like I'm not paying $2.67 a share for IronNet, especially when it's not doing volume. Even if I think there may be a decent chance that it could roll over today, or at least have a shot to do so. It's Smile Direct that's up that 7.5%. It's Smile Direct that is making a run at this is 670 a couple of days ago that it wicked to. This is this range where it was at just you're going back into early August, I should say, when it clustered in front of 7 even and then faded. And a lot of times this question came up, and I think it was Vivek, rightfully so, in the chat on the 14th, and was like, why don't you just auto shorting it into this range? And the only reason I didn't at that particular day was because of the sentiment behind it, because it had that the Wall Street bets and everybody behind the move. And you come in today and you're looking at a similar approach into the level. Now, what the difference will be, and again, it's in the pre-market going into the 670 area. The difference is it's a heck of a lot stronger this morning going to it than it was back on the 14th here. And that does lead me to say, okay, well, it looks good for a breakout. Whereas this day, the approach I had was, you take the more conservative if you wanted the long, which was to buy a dip and give yourself a tighter stop. I think in this particular case, when you have the gap up, and it's definitely making a bigger cluster, and I guess consolidation up around that 670, that lends itself towards a 670 break. And then I think about, if 7 gets taken out and starts to actually go parabolic, that's when I would be hunting for a short. And if you fail through 6, call it like 630, 640 here, get a consolidation back at these levels in the 6 quarters, then you can say to yourself, okay, well, now I'll short it in the bottom end of the range. So I'll stay bullish as long as we're between 640 to 670 for that breakout. I can always revisit it later on if that doesn't work out for the short idea, or if it goes absolutely parabolic through that 7 even. Usually after that first 10% in the halt, I tend to stop looking for longs. I'm not saying the stock is going to halt, but I usually stop looking for the longs and holding on to them, getting that first or maybe second move long, and then I'm looking for the short after that. And Smile Direct feels like it's going to be that beast. So I'm looking 670 breakout. If it gets through that 7 even, I'm probably going to be starting to think about ideas where I want to be shorting it, likely in the 775-8 range, or just wherever it happens to turn around reading the tape.
Yeah, same idea with Neil. 670, 675-ish. I'm going to wait for that to go, though. Like, it's not going to be an automatic entry. I'm going to actually wait to see how it trades. Given how much strength there was on the sell side a couple days ago, so I'm just going to wait to make sure that that's been cleared before I go. Because this could easily be, especially when it sets up like this, it could easily be one of those false breakout trap, and then you go for the short. So I want to make sure if I'm going for the long, it's pretty obvious. And when it gets this obvious, it becomes a problem. Right? Because everyone sees it, everyone hits it at the same time, pushing it further than it needs to go. And then when that's done, it comes right back because it never needed to go that far. And then we go to the opposite side, which would be the better trade if you're going to go for the short. But for now, we're looking at the long side. I'm looking at 675, get above, stay above, trade above. Then the long is in play for me on SDC.
All right, let's go to Asana. Next on the list, impressive move yesterday. I can show you this headline here. The CEO picking up 13,915 shares on an SEC filing that came out earlier in the morning yesterday. But this move that happened, guys, happened about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. On monster volume, it just kicked off this huge buying program that lifted this thing up to all-time highs. What a daily chart for ASAN.
This chart looks exactly like, well, close to exactly like the Upstart chart when it got to like that 275 area where it had that stall out and that was that short area. We had a couple of nice real pullbacks that, one we took advantage of, the second one we didn't take advantage of. But it's a similar setup where you have the extension, you already have a breakout, and you have the extension here. You had one pullback which felt like it could have been a rollover. It tests a tight cluster and then breaks back out again and goes absolutely parabolic. And then you have the biggest of the candles, with the exception of the first break, you have the biggest of the candles right into an even level like this 120. And that's set up for a test of the high. Now this is the thing, like when you make this trade, or at least when I'm looking to make a short off this level, like the one that worked on Upstart, you actually want it to test that high. Like you want it to stick around here, even if it were to fall down to 117, 118. I'm looking to see it actually at the open, bounce a little bit, try to test that 120, fail through that high, and show you that at this price, sellers are starting to get some control of the stock, and then profit taking is going to come in. And then that's what you look for the rollover. This is not looking at this dip here in the afternoon and saying 117 break, sell, $3 stop. And then it can go 2-to-1, maybe it comes all the way back to 113, 114. Like that's not the idea behind that trade. Like I'm not looking for 117 breakdown. I've seen that work in the past. I'd much rather be shorting it if I can get it on a failure at 120, which means somewhere between 118, 119 ideally. I would allow it in some circumstances to barely break 120 if it happens right at the open, to just touch above 120 by a few pennies or so, slam back down $1 with a hard rejection. That could be an entry as well. But Asana is on the radar, and I know Sterling, I think it was Sterling in our chat was talking about, Upstart at 300. This one's a little bit more appealing to me because I feel like that move, we played that one on Upstart and then it decided to break out anyway. So I want to try Asana, which hasn't really had that pullback and then had that huge extension. I got to feel like there's going to be some profit taking here. With all trades, of course, like I said earlier, you can either size down, you can back off, do whatever it is that makes sense to you, have tighter stops. Be more particular with your entries. Just watch out at the open. If I were to see a big buy imbalance on Asana, I'd throw this out the window and let it settle down. Like I just wouldn't touch the trade if it happened to come out with a few million shares with a buy imbalance, or if I just saw action on the level 2 that didn't make any sense to me in terms of big bids, I would walk away from it. But the setup certainly is there. And a test of 120 and a failure, I'm looking to short it off that high and then take my shot. That's a hard stop. I'm not letting it get through the high of the day without covering. Because if you're going counter trend, like I always say, you have to have an out and you have to have a plan. Otherwise, you're just going to get crushed. These can work for you going counter trend so long as the risk to reward is good. You don't actually have to hit better than 50% of these shots because of the risk to reward. But if you don't actually take your out, well, then none of it matters.
Yeah, I just pulled up the imbalance on Asana for now. 60,000 to the buy side at the moment. So not a whole lot. It is fairly thin though, so that could change the game fairly quickly. So just keep an eye on it for now. It does have a buy side imbalance, barely, but it does have a buy side imbalance on Asana. I'm looking at 120. This trend, or it is quite the trend, but at least from yesterday, let's call it 111 and change around just after the 12 o'clock, maybe around 1 o'clock or so, from 111.12 all the way up to 120. And we really haven't stepped back a little bit, which makes me wonder how is this able to continue without getting some selling out of the way? Now, we did hesitate at 118. We hesitated at 120. So we're now sitting above all these points where we kind of came back to. We came back to 117 and change, and we came back to about 118, 117.50. So clearly 117.50, 116 even. It's a slippery slope, but once from 117.50 going on to 116 even, I think there's a support zone at this point. And you could play the buy side, but if you're looking for the long, is it going to be one of those dips into support here, or is it going to be the breakout? The breakout scares me just because round numbers on this type of a stock, I mean, it could be, you see how thin it is. The only way it can move this quick is if it's going to be aggressive. And given that it went up $9, that means it's aggressive. So I wouldn't jump the gun on this 120 break to the upside. Just like Caesar, I want to see the breakout. I want to see the trade. I want to see some activity before I step in. But I think the trend is strong. We've developed some decent buy-side support going down to 116. So 120 long could be on the table as long as it trades above there properly. And that is the key right now is, can you trade? Can you get above and can you trade above and be able to absorb any selling that comes in once you get above? If that all the answers are yes to that, then I think longs are on the table with 116 as a stop on Asana.
Checking on this HLBIZ, HLBZ, just popping up here. Thanks, Neil, for the heads up on that. 60%, wow. Here's the headline. They reported so this is a media company. So they're teaming up with Fox Network Group to broadcast Series B championship. So yeah, nice pop here for HLBZ, guys. HLBIZ. The name there. Beyond Meats, the next one on the list here. What a move that had late in the day yesterday. They came out and said they're going to supply McDonald's in Netherlands with products for their McPlant burger over in the Netherlands. So remember we had that Piper Sandler downgrade that had that stock lower on the session to start yesterday, but pretty impressive reversal.
It really was, and it was all about that news. And I can tell you, like I was sitting in that short. We had the short twice off 107.80 at the open here, and just show you on the 15-minute chart. This is your 109 support, gap down. It pops in, gives you that 930. The stock is selling off on the downgrade and gapping down as well. You have that 930 pop, some buying in. You're able to sell when it doesn't take out that higher, that previous resistance level. So I shorted 107.80-ish twice. And I was hanging on to the last of my shares, essentially when that news broke. And this is one of the things I talked about like yesterday. Is just you can have the best laid plans in the world, and you can have a good setup, and everything about the trade is still working for you. But you have to react to news when it happens. So I did get stopped out of that trade, at 106, and then I didn't go back in and all of a sudden just short the same level because things had obviously changed. And I kind of will continue that theme today, where I'm not shorting this level. I kind of feel like I'll back off because of the news. If anything, it is sort of setting up for a 108.50 break. It's not dissimilar from some of the other setups that we have. If you're looking at like that Robinhood trade where you want to wait for a little bit of volume to come in. So I'll probably back off of Beyond Meat today. I'm definitely not shorting at that level, despite the fact that the daily chart looks like it's relatively weak. I do want to just, because when we mentioned that HLBZ, and I wanted to come to the chart just for a quick second here. Two things. One, we have traded this before. It did make a jailbreak through these prices and fail at 16.50, put in a lower high that gave you all kinds of a shorting opportunity, whether it was at 14.5, whether it was at 15.5, it doesn't matter. That's exactly where we're going to now. So not a huge break and still a chance for reversal until it gets through there. You won't see me in it because I just checked. We don't have any locate. So this is not a situation like IronNet for us where it's just ridiculously expensive. Actually, no locates for us at all. It's unavailable. So I'll try to get some here and see how expensive it is. It does set up for a chance of a rollover in this price area, 15.5 to 16.50. If it breaks the top at the open, that is a halt candidate, in which case I would be willing to take a 16.50 break long, not just because I can't short, but because it sets up. And then on top of that, I'd look for maybe that, get long into a halt and then just take a bunch of it out or more than half of it out on the reopen. So that idea is out there for HLBZ, but no ability to go short, at least for me.
Yeah, back to BYND. I remember when this was like the hottest name. Before we got all these hot names that were just flying around because of short interest, this is the next big thing, big name, trading crazy, and now it's relatively quiet. Again, relatively quiet. But it is providing some opportunity for some buys here. 108.50 seems to be a level that you could work with for the short term. The issue I have with it, though, is that you go back a couple days and 109 held very well on the buy side in terms of support, right? So would I give it to 109 then? If I go 109, what's my stop? The stop would have to be the same. If I go long on, say, 108.50, 109-ish, if we can get above there and trade, then the stop would have to be 106. Can I get $3? If I'm putting $3 in risk, can I get $3? I'm going to run something at 111. So this is one of those trades where get above $9, settle in, and then come back under so I can actually make the risk make sense on this trade. So back into the 108s, and then I can put up maybe $2, $2.50 in risk so I can actually take it up to 111. So there's a lot of conditions attached to this trade. It is available, but it has to be done a certain way. So I'll just mark it off. If it gets above 109, then I got to see how it trades. And then if we can come back underneath 108.50, then you have the potential to make the risk, get the risk back. Remember, 111 would have to be the first target because 111, again, support back on the 13th, resistance a couple times in the morning and the afternoon on the 15th, and then here we are trading well below it, below that 109 support. So we're kind of wedged in there. Just be aware that, especially with the way I trade, I got to make sure that if I'm taking the risk, I'm going to be able to get the other side of it. So if I'm taking 5 points, 10 points, whatever the case is in risk, then I'm going to try to get at least close to 1-to-1 before I go ahead and take it. If I'm not going to get 1-to-1 at least, I'm going to try to push the price back so I can get a good risk-reward ratio. And sometimes that doesn't always work out in your favor because you end up missing the trade. And hey, you know, that's trading. So just be aware that even though I'm seeing this trade, I may not end up getting it because I may be sitting at prices that the market does not want to trade at. It's just one of those things. Another stock I was looking at, though, CRVS, has moved above $4, traded above $4, hesitated, now back at $3.86. If we can get back above $4 on CRVS, I was looking at this when we were at $3.50, and I was saying if we can get it 4 and stay above 4, there's a decent trade there. Again, we can't stay above 4, so for now it's a no-go. But if we can maintain strength above 4 at that point, I think the trade is on CRVS.
All right, let's continue here. Let's go to Lucid Group, one of the most active in the pre-market. Again, 3 days in a row, higher in the pre-market after positive news. A couple of days ago, we got that note on their sedan, what is it called again? The Air Dream Edition Range Luxury Sedan. 520-mile range certified by regulators in the U.S. yesterday. So another 4.5% here. This thing's already over 1 million shares on the day.
It really is, and it's rolling over. By the way, the 1650 broke on HBLZ, their HLBZ, I should say. It took 17. I got some out for a quick little scalp. I'm going to try and hold the rest with a 16 stop. But Lucid, a little bit of a double bottom here in the pre-market, right at 22 even. And it's been a nice little run for the stock. But if you're just going to pull up the daily chart so you can see here, guys. Nice little run, but it's into now some resistance at 23, which it's already decided to pull back from. This would set you up for like that 930, you know, if it pops in, roll over, and then you can short in front of that 23 area. But I would probably be thinking about, like, can you dip by this thing if it gets, because look at this level here. This is like 2085, 21, and this is 2075 here. If it gets down to that cluster, it could be an interesting dip by. From there, because I got to be able to show it to you guys as well. But HLBZ does make that pop. It took out that high. I did immediately take some out in front of that 17 because it's a nice round number. I'm going to try and hold the rest of this into the open. And one last thing, and started to triple up here a room because we got the simpler stuff. We did get a super chat there, and I wanted to make sure I got to DTTW out here. Take two. It's not a good looking daily chart here for Take Two. And I'll pull this back a little bit here because they caught a downgrade. It is on the watch list. And a price target decrease, actually to 150, which is where we're at right now. But this is previous support and wick support down at 151, and then this level was 153, 154, and it's breaking into this range and now taking out the 150. You could already be, if there was any volume, you could already be short this thing at a 150 level with a 152, 153 area stop, and then thinking about shoot 135, 140. But there's no momentum behind it, unfortunately. So without that momentum, I'm not trading it if I was long this stock. I mean, you can't say you already have trimmed it, but I'd be very concerned with a close below this 140, below this 150 level, because on any kind of a market weakness, you're talking about at least a 10% retracement here, guys. So a lot happening. HLBZ did go. It's now testing 1750. Wild action to the spread, about 30 cents at times. So be careful with that HLBZ. Like I said, it really could halt at the open. I'm almost expecting a halt at the open if it's still pushing higher.
If it's going to halt at the open, I would love to get inside of some of that halt action there on HLBZ. HLBZ, right? Yeah, HLBZ. Okay, Lucid is what we were talking about before we went to that stock there. Lucid, it was on my list of stocks that I was going to look at today. I had marked off 23.50 and 22. Where is it? LCID. 22 even, I believe. Yeah, 22 even and 23.50. The reason I put this up, and you're not going to see, this chart doesn't show everything, all the pre-market stuff, especially from yesterday because their servers were down at that time. But there's a decent amount of trading being done around that 22.50, pretty much where we are at the moment right now, around that 22.20, 22.10 area. And then above 23 even, there was actually some trading yesterday as well. That's why I'm pushing it to 23.50. We didn't go as high. I think we went to 23.20 or something like that. But we didn't go as high as 23.50. I'm accounting for stops as well. That's why I'm pushing the edges a little bit higher, just in case that the resistance that was there, in case we get above 23.10, 23.20, stops go off, I'm giving it some runway to actually avoid a false breakout situation. So 23.50 is the top end. I'm looking at 22 even number. I'm okay with that on the sell side as well. And then I looked for, do I have to pay for shorts? The answer was yes. You guys know how I feel about shorts. So we're going to be looking at the top end only, 23.50 option to the buy side. If we can get, again, we need to get above that 23.20 area and then maintain some strength without stops getting taken out. If all of that stuff works out, then yeah, there's a long potential on LCID above 23.10 going into that 23.50 area. Brendan?
A few little ones, bottom end of the list this morning. Let's talk about CRVS. First off, very, very clear levels on the daily chart. If you go out to the daily chart, this is about 450, 475, the top end of this range, and then the very, very extreme high end of that range, about 490 up to 5. So long story short, we'll be interested in this one a lot higher than what it is currently trading. We're struggling at 4 right now. So remember, these levels 450 up to about 495 on CRVS. Otherwise, if we get a fail back below these kind of support levels, you might get a test of where we were yesterday for Corvus, guys.
All right, somebody asked for imbalance. Here we go. Imbalance. What are the imbalance? Not a whole lot from New York. Okay, let's add in NASDAQ. I believe we should get NASDAQ soon. NASDAQ, yeah, let's put a NASDAQ here. And when we get the NASDAQ update, I'll let you guys know. But for now, though, it does look like New York is going to be 973. On you, this doesn't look right? It seems small for a day like today. Yeah, it seems very small for a day like today. Not sure why, but maybe closer to the open we'll get something better. But for now, it is much smaller than we're used to seeing on a day like today. So this open for now looks quiet, to say the least.
Yeah, it's a little strange. I'm looking at Toronto because some of the Toronto not imbalances, level 2s look just as crazy as normal with big locked books, but a little surprising to see the imbalances that small. There was just, I should probably cancel the spin. There was just a big turn on HLBZ. Look at this wick down. It actually took and held this 16 level where I'd thrown my stop, and then came right back into 1650 where we had the breakouts, now consolidating, but that was a big dump there. More the bid falling than volume that was larger than on the way up, so I'm still hanging on to it. You're right at that 52 level on Bros, so Dutch Brothers continues to be strong. There is an iceberg on this level. It's not gigantic size or anything like that, but there is an iceberg on that 52. It does still set up for a breakout, so we'll likely have that one on board. This IPHA, which I've been sitting in all morning long. I've kind of been updating in the chat what I've been doing here. Innate Pharma. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of the drug, but they presented a trial and it was good news. I couldn't even try. You can read it in the watch list if you want. But off this 750 to 760 area, the lower high, I shorted a couple of times here. First time out 25s, then it wicked down here to 35. I took some, but I got bids all the way down to 7 in case there was a flush at the open. I will not add to this thing with only a minute to go. I will not add to this if it tests that high of the day, and I won't let it break the high of the day either. So I'm in this IPHA. I'm looking breakout, Smile Direct 670 to the long side, 52 on Dutch Brothers, of course, and we did talk a little bit about Asana, the strongest name in the market. Well, okay, I mean, you guys can probably find some small caps in some of these crazy movers that are stronger than Asana, but this 120 level, I want to see this get tested at the open, and I want to take a shot at this rollover, potential rollover, I should say, on Asana, which has just gone absolutely parabolic the last couple of weeks. Strong daily chart, but if this is the top, I want to make sure I at least take a shot at getting it.
Yeah, Asana, just for an update on the amount side, it's 46,000 to the buy side. So not a whole lot for the inbound side on Asana. I'm looking at that as well. Another one, I'm looking at Walmart above 145. We are trading fairly well. I want to say fairly well, but I mean, we are trading, we've been above here. We're staying above here, but there isn't a whole lot going on. But for now, I'm going to wait to see the open. I do want to see some stability. Again, volume matters on a day like today. I like to see how much trading can be done. If we can maintain strength above 145, then long could be on the table. You're just seeing some pre-market prints go off there. 145 is what I'm looking for on Asana, not on Asana, Walmart.
Canceling my bid on Bros, by the way.
Yeah, just 50 seconds. And just so, DD popped in on the buy side, 650K, and we got about 10 seconds there. Bro.
Yeah, I'm dropping the countdown here. I'm pretty sure Ms. V is on the bell. She's got the green on, and we are red. So let's see if we can't turn the markets green on witching day. 3, 2, and 1. What in the heck, Bros? What the heck? So I want to go nuts. I mean, HLBZ is at $18, $1.50 in the money, but all I can stare at is this Bros, which went all the way down to 48.
Yep.
And I'm like, why did I not get the dip on Bros? You've got to be kidding me, Neil. What is wrong with you? It gave you a shot right at pre-market lows, dropping $4 like an absolute rock. I'm going to sit on the bid, see if I can get it. I'm not taking the breakout at 52 after what I just saw there. And while I was mesmerized with that, HBLZ topped out at 19 and is now trying to pull back in. This is kind of set up that if 19 breaks, I'm thinking out in front of 20 or possibly a halt. And my better sense is saying if it goes up to 19 again, just try to take it out and take a 19 break. But I always get out too early, so my hands are going to be off the keyboard. I want to trail this higher. If 19 breaks, I'm going to throw a stop through 17.50 or 18 even. But HLBZ off to the races. Dutch Brothers just came all the way back to 50.5, so crazy action on Dutch Brothers. I don't even know what to make of this thing. I can't believe it actually sold that hard. Oh wow, it's all the way back to 51. I'm gonna fade this. Yeah. I'm gonna fade Dutch Brothers. That's way too. It doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna go short Dutch Brothers. Oh wow, HLBZ just came all the way back. I'm covering. It might halt to the downside, HLBZ, guys. And if it does, I'm looking short on that name. But now I've reversed. After that sell-off that made no sense to me in Dutch Brothers, I'm shorting in front of that 52. There's always a chance at a breakout. HLBZ halts to the downside. I quickly covered that at the halt price 33s, so lose 24 pennies after making the long win. And now Dutch Brothers is testing 52 after all.
Yeah, and as you can see, I'm flat. The reason I'm staying flat is because I don't want to get caught in the crossfire in a lot of moves that are going to be happening. HLBZ is actually halted, just so you know. Neil mentioned as well. The reason I'm flat right now, there's too much happening. And volume cannot be trusted this early on. So there's a lot of breakouts that I can see. A couple of things that I'm looking at. Obviously, Neil's got that Bros trade. 52 long, we were looking at that. It just broke 52 on Bros, and now it's at 53. So it's clearly taking off to the upside. Bros is one option. SDC, I was looking at 675, above 675. We kind of got above there and came back under. Still waiting for that to confirm. Microsoft, I was looking for the short below 304. So again, all these trades are ready to go. I'm just not jumping on them just yet because, well, not all of them, but most of them are ready to go. I'm just waiting for some more volume to come through because I'm going to wait a few minutes before I jump on board on any of these trades. Microsoft below 304 with the 306 stop. That was another one. Asana 120. We went above. Asana was the one I want to talk about. Remember I mentioned to you guys, Asana has to get above and stay above. And this is exactly why, because we got above, hit some stops, up to 121 change, and here we are right back through 120. And this is exactly what I was worried about if I was going to take the 120 breakout, right? 116 is still in play, but we need to stay above 120 for that long to be valid. Otherwise, a short would be the play, because then you could argue stop out, stop run, go for the short, flip the direction and go for the short. And given how strong it's run, it makes sense why it would come back down. Another trade, AMD, I've got, I haven't taken it. Again, I'm waiting on all these just for them to settle down. AMD is hitting some, not support areas, but an area that would be of interest to me, which would be this 105.50 point. Going down to 105 even. It's sitting in this little wedge here. There could be a nice little bounce trade right off of this. And the last one was 3M. We were talking about 3M above 181. Or sorry, I wasn't talking about it. I thought about it. I never actually ended up talking about it. 3M below 181, not above 181. Below 181, maintain strength, absorb sell, maintain sell strength, absorb buying, and then the short could be in play. We are all almost ready to go on some of these. Some of them are already ready to go. Again, I'm just waiting for the volume to settle down. Maybe another minute or two before I start sending orders.
Yeah, and I'm going to get that. I got Smile Direct to the long side. HLBZ, I will be looking to trade this one off the open when it does reopen in about 2 minutes. Asana, I'm actually trying to get because it did give a fail break through 120 and then come right back in. And I'm going to load up on Bros. I got a 40. It's like 47.5, 48. That looks like the absolute bottom. And I kind of want to give this one some room here because there's some crazy action, but there's more buy volume than there was sell volume on this particular name. IPHA took the top off, guys. Sorry, HLBZ, I do not want to miss this one when it reopens. If that was just the top on this stock, there's no way in heck that I want to have missed out on it, guys. It just seems like it's going to be crazy. But IPHA took out the top. I reversed into a long that I've already covered. If it wants to hold an $8 range, I like the long in front of it. We'll take a quick shot at that. Brendo, what's up, bud?
Bank strong out of the gate here, guys. Obviously a lot more volume than we're used to off of the open there. But Morgan Stanley, excuse the daily chart, not loading, but Morgan Stanley, an early mover here, guys, on volume. Big spike to the upside out of the open.
All right, like I mentioned, now that I'm ready to go, I'm trying to get some trades, and some of them are already gone. Sometimes you run the risk of this happening, right? I'm trying to get Microsoft. I was looking for that 304 short, and there goes Microsoft. But I've got an order out there. I'll take the fill on the way back up. If we come back up, I'll leave the order there, by the way. Microsoft 304 short, or at least as close I can get to 304 with a 306 stop. As you can see, it is falling apart right now. So that trade would have been good if I had just taken off the open. I'm not taking that risk, though, because you know, it's just one of those things. You got to control your risk, especially on a day like today. You want to avoid situations where you just get caught in the wash. So that's what I was doing. Another trade, we're looking at Asana. Again, Asana back through 120 into the 117 and change. That could be, again, potential flip side short. 116 was an option. So I'm keeping an eye on this. Can we maintain strength above 120? We flushed the stops. Now, if we get back above and stay, then you could argue the long. But for now, though, there's no trade on Asana unless it's going to be a short below 116. Another trade,
I mean, the only difference I'll make is I'm taking my trade on Asana. I did make the short just now of 118.60. I was looking for a fail break or a rejection of that 120 level to jump into the short like we did with that upstart trade. Bros is almost untradeable at this point unless you're getting the periphery, so I'm not even going to try that thing anymore. It's just been whipped around in that stock, so I'm going to walk away from it. It's just open on HLBZ, but I wanted to just quickly mention I did get Asana, so I am into that short side trade. HLBZ kind of, I mean, it's opening up right here, and the fact that it can't get back to this like 1750 area, there was a big time reversal. You look at this, like 18 failed break. I mean, 18 stands out as an obvious stop. If I get anything close enough to 18 for a short, for sure, I think it's going to be pretty good. But 1650 was that breakout price, and it's holding it for now. Want to give it some room here because HLBZ, like you said, I expected this one could halt. It wasn't the upside halt I was anticipating. Thankfully, we were able to get out by the skin of our teeth, which we were not on Bros. But I want to be on the other side of this trade because that's a hard rejection. I want to be shorting this name if I can.
Neil, question for you. When you were shorting Bros, did you get locates or no?
You had, I forget how cheap they were, but you did.
You ended up paying for them.
Yeah, you had to pay for locates though. I don't remember how cheap they were.
I am considering the idea of shorting Bros for just underneath 47. There goes 47. Okay, so I got to be quicker. Do I pay for it? That becomes the question.
Yes.
So the answer would depend entirely. At this point, given how much downside I think Bros might have, I might actually pay for it. Yes, I might pay for it. I just got to go ahead and actually grab some shorts there.
Brendan.
Ford, guys, big mover here. Ford through 1350. Took out that high from late in the day yesterday on F, a big mover. And then I want to flip over and show you this one as well because, yeah, you might have heard that in the background. Trader Prad talking about IPHA. Huge move through 9 there, halted now to the upside.
And of course, I just remember we don't have locates on HLBZ, so I'm going to be sitting here like, oh, that's a frustrating one. Unavailable. It just came right to my level to be able to short. It doesn't matter. I couldn't get the trade. So HLBZ now coming to the downside here. But IPHA got out by the skin of our teeth. And it's like, I don't know, man. If I ever have an out in a reversal on a stock like this, I should usually hold on to the long. I didn't. And again, here goes parabolic. If you're looking at this on a higher time frame, there actually were levels that were breaking out through here. But I'm going to be looking, staring straight in the face of 10 even, guys. Now that you've sort of broken through, I should say, 10 even is going to stand out on any kind of a reopen. We'll get that in about 3 or 4 minutes that it should come in. Plenty of time for you to sort of figure out what you want to do. Make sure you have locates on it, of course, like I just did not do on HLBZ before I got excited about it. Asana is still barcoding up here. And I say barcoding because it's back and forth like a dollar range on a stock, which puts in $10 ranges. Barcoding back and forth. I'm still short this 118.60 for my starter position. You got to give this at least 2. You can talk about the wick high here. 120 is reasonable. 120.5 is more reasonable, even so than that. And then Smile Direct Club, which, again, try to let this one settle down and, have the structure. Whoops. Smile Direct, of course, is on the NASDAQ, Neil. Smile Direct now making that break towards $7. If it'll load up here, there you go. Making that break towards $7. I will take some out because it's a round number and witching is crazy. So take profit when it's there because it's going to make some sense to do so as it immediately runs away from my order when we throw that 95 in. I like this break. I like the dip. I should have taken it, but things were so crazy at the open. There was no liquidity on this move into the downside. It was almost nuts, right? Like you had a chance to get it at 650. By that time, I was trying to manage the Bros trade and this IPHA, which is going absolutely nuts. Now I want to take some shares out in front of 7 even. Look at how big 7 even is on the offer. Why is this still on the sauna? Look at how big it is on the offer here at Smile Direct Club, and then start thinking about a 7 even break, right? Because if 7 goes, there's room to quarters and then 50s. The volume is going to be fantastic. Things have settled down. And if we pick upside on this stock, which of course, as I get out some shares, it's going to dip, which means I'm buying a dip in front of 660 or so, going to hop on that bid there. I like the idea of a 7 break, so I'll be buying dips and breakouts in Smile Direct, which feels like a bit of a long to me.
Yeah, so Microsoft, man, that trade is gone. That short that I would have liked above 304, it is gone. But again, I can take this on a pullback. If it bounces back, I'm perfectly okay on this pullback on Microsoft. Bouncing off that 302 support point back to 304. I'll put up $2 in risk trying to trade that. I've also got offers out on MMM, 3M. Below 181, we were talking about this. If we got underneath and traded back and maintained sell side strength, then I would go for the short. Again, I've got some offers out there. I'm not willing to step in aggressive and get these 180 halves, but I will like them as close to 181 as possible. So for now, we've got 2 offers out there. And I just saw BABA go off on my alert system here. Why? Oh yeah, okay. BABA went off above 159 and change. If we can maintain strength above 159.25 was the area, but again, that was just because it was a high from the pre-market going back to the end of the day yesterday, two days ago actually, around here. If we can maintain strength above here, I think there's a potential long there on BABA. But for now, though, it's backing off, which is fine. I just got to wait on this one there. Brendan?
Big early mover as well, guys. Upstart again. To the upside, almost 5% at the highs there. We took out 308, so 300 held there as support at the open. But what a move on the daily chart as well for UPST.
And looks like that was just a shakeout on that HLBZ. I mean, it's setting up again for another potential break here at now 19. I mean, it was 1650 before. It's got a double top at 19. If it takes this one out, I'll go really, really tight in trying to catch a long, and I'm going to try and scalp it because it seems like every single move that you're taking this morning, you want to immediately get the profit, whatever profit you're able to snag out of it, and then hold on to a little bit. But if you try to hit the home run and get too greedy, you can tend to get burned, I think, really, really easily, especially on a stock which is trading in the fashion that this is. So I don't think you give it more than like the buck. I think you can definitely win $1, but you can't give it more than that buck in. I don't want this to be like a fail here because it then turns into a short the rest of the day, and I can't short it. So I'm going to be really, really tight stops on any of the long trades that we have here. Also worth noting, I mean, give me an absolute break. OPAD, which we did say, I think we said that both IronNet and OPAD would look like they could roll over, and one of them had a reasonable pay for short, and that one was OPAD. I don't take the short. IPHA has now opened, as Trader Prad has yelled out to me. If we come back to 17, I like OPAD for a short trade. IPHA has opened back up, and it looks like it's immediately rejecting off of that $10 level. I like 10. I mean, 10 would have been fantastic for a potential break. Back below that Hull price, I don't know that I would jam a short. This looks too strong for that just for now.
Yeah, and shout out to the chat for pulling up PLTR for me because I saw that. I was like, oh, I need some more trades. PLTR above 29 even. There we go. Nice little long there. I'm putting it in my stop just below 28.50. So 29.04, I believe, is my average price on my position there. There we go. Let it go. At this point, the risk is about just over 50 cents. I think we can get 50 cents. There's no resistance that I'm looking at to the upside, so we're just going to let this go and see how far it wants to go and just manage it as it goes. But you know how this thing moves. It's been working this area for a couple days, so we're going to have to take some time with it and let this trade. For now, it's 8 cents. 8 cents in the money. We're just going to let that go. Walmart is another trade that I mentioned Walmart at 145. We opened below it, I believe, and then shot right above on Walmart. Now backing off of this 140, what is this, 145.50, 145.60. Again, this area here, I need some more strength. 145 is available. The trade's almost ready to go. I just need some strength to maintain. I'm still waiting for offers. My offers are still waiting on 3M. 3M. Oh man. Oh, I'm not going to get the 3M trade. It just keeps going down. It got as high as what, 70 something? I was waiting closer to 180, 181. But the setup in these situations where if the setup took multiple days to go or to work itself, I'm not going to cancel the order just because I didn't get filled right now. I would only cancel this order if, let's just say, my thought process is this. If I were to get the short and when I would manage that position and get out, at that point, if I would be flat, that's when I would cancel this order. But up until that point, if it goes down $3 and comes right back up, I would still want that short. If I would still be in the short the first time around, then I would still take the short if it bounces back and gets me on the fill. What are you guys talking about, IPHA?
No, IPHA just took out 10. It just took out 1070. It's trying to halt here at 1078. So I mean, I'm on the bid. I got some shares on the 10 break, and if it resists this halt, I want to make sure I can get out of it.
I'm too late.
I don't want this to. Don't do it.
Well, they're gonna break it.
Yeah, they're gonna break it. Yeah, they broke it. Yeah, it was crazy. So it was in that state where it's like, okay, it looks like they want to halt it. My blended price ends up being like a 1060 because I took some out of that long, and then I got some more shares in that halt. But because, and look at it, now they're going to try and halt it again, and it just resisted. So I'm not going to get shaken out this time. I'm going to see if we can't get some shares out. If it wants to halt up here in front of 11 even, I might try to take some profit on the last little long that we had here. So I had long at 10, and then we had the long off the fake halt. It gets a fake halt at 78. I'll trim a little bit here because it's actually going to halt now at 1090 on IPHA. I mean, I say that, it's 15 seconds. It might actually not do so, but if it does do the halt here, you got to expect this is going to open up above 11 even. So let's see what happens. I mean, someone was asking, how are you not trading IPHA? Well, like I had the long that I took off way too early. And then it had the halt, and I'm always wanting to see it battle it out here in front of an obvious range. And if it broke down, maybe there's a dip at like 850 you could buy, or maybe there's a short I'm going to like in here at 9 even, or I'm just going to take the next breakout, which happened to be 10. It got really tricky with that, I guess, fake out halt at 1079 there, which is probably why I trimmed some more shares in front of 11 even. Now we're holding through the halt. Because I've taken profit a couple of times, I probably won't just automatically get out in front of that, wherever it happens to open. So I'll back away from doing that and try and hold through 11 even, see what happens next. If it goes into a third halt, I will cover. I wouldn't even try to hold through a third halt. I would cover in front of a third halt there, guys. So yeah, IPHA is absolutely nuts. Bro stunk for me. That can do this, but IPHA went from being a good short in the pre-market. Not the first time that's happened, because IronNet did that one time. It was like a good short in the pre-market to a breakout long, and I'm kicking myself because when I reversed out of the short, I got out of it. It's like, I look at that first push, whenever I'm shorting a stock, it's like, yeah, just get out of it, take the nice little win that you had making back what you lost on the short. Shouldn't do that. Like, that was a breakout jailbreak that I could have had the absolute bottom of. And I didn't just get out of, like, I didn't just get flat in the short, I did reverse. That's why you see like a red sell there. I'm not trying to act like I didn't just make the biggest bungle of all time, not holding on to that original long at 8 even, guys.
Yeah, it's funny because when they broke, IPHA we're talking about, when it broke, it was about to halt around the 50 mark, and then it broke down, and then it didn't go that far down before it halted again, or came back above that 50 area, that 1050 area. I actually started setting orders to bid because it was pretty obvious that the support was there to take this into a halt. It was just a matter of, are we going to halt on the straight run into the upper band or the halt band, or are we going to try to play this game? Because keep in mind, there's a criteria that needs to be met for the halt, right? It's easy to manipulate that criteria if the programs can keep it just underneath that 10% or underneath that time, the 5 minutes, right? The 5 minute time window. So if you keep the prices underneath certain locations, just to extend the range a little bit, you can actually take this thing up without halting it. So I was just wondering, how strong is this going to be? And I started bidding in. And I wasn't going to cross to the offer, but I started bidding in, and then it just took off to the 70s. I bid the 70s, couldn't get that, went to the 90s. I finally stepped in at 90s. I'm like, okay, it looks like it's going to actually halt this way. So I do have 1090 for now. I got some out. I've got an order out to get out on the opening price. And then we'll see how it goes from there. Like Neil said, if it gets above 11, then we can get probably a nice little trade into at least 1150 maybe. For now, we're just going to wait for the open on that. And I am going to have to probably pull the order on Microsoft, it looks like. Brennan?
Just quickly, guys, take two popping back up here again. It failed at 150, so we got above 150 and then got slammed right back down again. Still down for TTWO.
Things starting to settle down a little bit, so I mean, I'm kicking myself. I said calm down on some of these, but Bro will be okay to trade, and of course that was a bit of an abject disaster. Asana is about $1 in the money. I think we'll just hang on to that one. But CRVS put in a big fail at the top here, and you guys can get the graphic ready, Lucas, if you got it, because 420 is the top on CRVS. Because why wouldn't 420 be the top here? You're absolutely right. So if it does try to get back up into the 4 range, am I fading it up there? You better believe it. I'll fade the stock. I've been staying away from CRVS. I didn't really have the feels for the breakout on this, and I didn't have any obvious areas to go short. Now that it's given you the fact that the sellers are trying to take control, we'll get into that one. I'm not avoiding the Asana chart. We have, I want to say, a minute or two until IPHA opens back up, so it's not, I'm not ignoring it, but we have some time. If this had gotten to 120.50, someone asked what my stop was, 120.50. If it had gotten up here and rolled over past 120, I would have taken more shares in. But instead, I'll just stick to the whole higher time frame look. When in doubt, zoom out. When you're trying to capture a gap like this, I'm not sitting here, I'll probably have my first bid out closer to the 107 range, right? So we're looking to take like $1.50 minimum on the first little bit and then give it some room down to a 114. So I think I want to give this some breath. On Asana, it's a little bit different from some of these like in and out rapid fire trades that we are doing here in some of the small caps, but ASAN starting to work for us here after that failed break at the open. Clearly IPHA is going to be on my mind, and look, I obviously want to, we can't trade every single stock here, but this is going to open up in about 10-15 seconds or so, as long as it's not a 10-minute halt, and it is a 5-minute halt. I'm going to hold through this reopen. I want it taking out 11. If it looks like it's about to halt to the upside, another 10%, that'll be at about $12 or so, just shy of that. I'm just going to take it out if I can get it.
11 even was the opening price.
Yeah.
And here we are, and
immediately.
I've already dumped some, so that's going to help me get out, and then I'm going to dump some more. See if I can't grab it before this halts. If this were to come off a little bit.
It's holding up here at least a little bit. Oh, where's my level 2? Oh, give me.
I'm probably going to have to.
It's on CRVS still.
This, not yet, no. Still waiting to see. It is holding well up here.
This is a crazy battle. So you look at the time in sales here, right? Like it's just an overwhelming majority of D prints here, guys. But there is holding up well. And if it takes out, there we go. I was about to say if it takes out 11, I think we're going to get that push into 12 even. So this is actually it ticking up into 12. If it tries to halt, I'm getting out. We're going to go to Brennan. Yeah, it's actually going to halt right now.
Yeah, I'm not playing this.
I'm not playing this game anymore. I'm just going to take the 1186 out because look. It just failed the halt and then flushed again. This is the second time it's done that move. At some point, that's going to mean a jailbreak, and it's going to absolutely flush. So I'm taking the profit on the long for that reason. I'm going to walk away from this and start thinking about where the short is going to be on APHA. Brendan?
It's worth noting on that, in all-time high territory for IPHA. We mentioned there was another, even Lucid. We were talking about Lucid earlier, but here's Fisker, guys, just popping up on volume through day highs and 13 being taken out here for FSR.
See,
go ahead.
Yeah, no, we're both trying to talk about IPHA. There was an issue there around 11. It did run through. So I got out a couple times, one off the open, one just in front of 11, because I was hesitating. When it came back down to 78, 79, and there was a massive iceberg there, and it was repeatedly taken, and then it would step back in. And that's an issue. Obviously, it got close to halting, and then here we are back at 1050. This game is done. I'm done. I've made my money from it. I'm going to walk away from this trade. So IPHA was fun while it lasted, at least for now. Maybe if we play this halt game later on, I'll step back in. But for now, though, I am going to step away from IPHA.
Look, I am stepping away from the long, but I'm thinking about how I can get a short. I got an accidental short here because I had to stop, and I was like instant out. And again, I am thinking of where to short this name, and it might even come down from here. But if you ever get a trade that you don't want in a stock this volatile, I'm not even thinking twice about it. I just immediately remove liquidity in and out in like the same second here, guys. If it had popped in and held this halt level, I guess the second halt up was at 1090. If it came in and held that level, I would probably try to play the short. I do want to come back to Smile Direct because I am still in this name, and I'm trying to give it some room to test and break the 7 even. I've already taken it once. My dip buy was not close enough. I mean, 670 long, I'm sitting there at 665. Nah, I should have been sitting here like in front of 670. That's pretty sloppy, but a lot of things are happening, as you guys can all tell here. So I'll get my bid a little bit more aggressive on Smile Direct to try to catch that dip buy. And then IPHA is, look, it's just definitely getting my attention over here. But it's ARQQ, what you guys are saying. Someone's saying ARQQ is back. I don't know, meant to fool me. Up $1, that's actually not too bad of a move on this particular name, but I remember this, and yeah, I'm right about it. This is 1870. This is a lower high that it put in the afternoon. Yeah, if it doesn't break through this, I don't know how sexy this move is going to be. It's almost a fade in front of that 1875 area, and then a breakout gets you to this 20, where this is where it gets pretty interesting to me on ARQQ. This thing gets to 20, I'll be all over it trying to catch a bit of a short trade, guys. And Lucid was mentioned. Then you went over to Fisker there, Brendan. Lucid now starting to come into the downside. So it does fail off of 23. I don't know if it gave you too good of a shot at the open, because this is pretty choppy action. Yeah, it gave you some shots at 22.5. It's holding the bottom. Very, very range bound, right? So whippy action so far. I wish I had, like the same way that I've stayed away from this, stayed away from Lucid. I wish I had stayed away from Bros until it settled down a little bit. But Lucid now starting to set up here, guys. If it continues this trend, you've got a 22 break to the downside for it to start to give back. The market's starting to come into the downside more aggressively. The NASDAQ's down 0.7% now. I'm looking to both fade this in front of 2250 or just quite simply take a 22 break. I'm only shorting Lucid.
Yeah, well, market's coming down. Let's just take a quick look at some index names. Microsoft. Yeah, that trade might not be happening. It might be too late for that. I think waiting just after the open kind of missed this boat here. So let's take a quick look at the futures as a whole then, if that's the way we're going to play this. Here we are back down to support. And remember, in this price point, in these ranges, longs are possibly on the table if we can just get a nice little setup. We need the setup though, because if there's enough momentum to carry this, you see the momentum in Microsoft. Yeah, I'm sure Apple is doing the same thing. Is Apple doing the same thing? Yes, it is. It's down 1%, trending to the downside. It is at some support though. So we are moving into support, but strength is to the downside. Sell side action, we are getting a decent amount of it. So what you don't want to do, and this is where I like to hesitate a little bit, is I don't want to step in just because we're at support, because we don't know how strong the sell side momentum is. So I'm just going to wait a little bit. If we get that set up, then I can go ahead, step in, put up the 15, 20 points in risk, and see if we can't get into the 60s or 70s to get that out. But for now, though, I'm open to the idea of a long. I'm also aware of the possibility of the 45-25 breakdown short. So those are the two ideas on the table, and I am just going to hold the two positions I've got. I've got two longs. I've got SDC. I've already picked up some SDC longs.
Nice.
On.
I just added.
Yeah, so it just broke 7, but I actually have it at 681. So remember, 675 and change was the area I was looking at. Here we are with the long. I got this late though, but whatever the case is, I do have 680, and here we are with a 25-cent, 23% winner for now, and we just took out the clear closest round number. So for now, this is going just fine. Risk on this was about 20 cents. So it wasn't a whole lot. I'm already making 1-to-1, but we have no targets up top, and we have no resistance levels that I want to work with up top. So we're just going to let it go and see how much we can get out of this trade. So this is one of those trades you just let go. Again, you let it go and see how far you can get. Same thing with PLTR. Let it go and see how far you can get. Manage the trade when it comes down to it. But for now, it's just a matter of waiting, see how much more we can get, and see if we can't grab some more trades.
Yeah, I mean, we'll do this, and why not? Because I think we're both looking at that Smile Direct. I missed the dip buy. We had the original set 75, took it out in front of 7, missed the dip buy. I just took the breakout on that particular trade, so I'm back into it for more shares. I do want to come, and this is we'll go to Upstart here, because Sterling was like, yeah, you like that? He likes the 309 short, and I was like, yeah, I kind of like Asana better because of the setup. Killing it, Sterling. 309, definitely a bit of a level here. With the market dying, I mean, it's weird because you're obviously in the money, so you're right about this and not me. 302 here, where the breakout price was below that price, the consolidation could really take you into a stronger move into the downside. But off to the races, Smile Direct, which is a Wall Street Bets favorite, I guess, this morning. So it looks like long, definitely a good one there. And you guys are reminding me about OPAD. Yeah, I have neglected that stock. We'll go to Brendan and come back with that.
DAT chat, guys, popping back up from earlier this week, going back to last week as well. You remember DATS. Day highs there at 9 on a volume spike for DATS.
Bros.
Didn't you mention?
Bros. Yeah, I mentioned DATS. Yeah, I mentioned DATS when we were talking off the show. Bros. Here we go. Through 47. So I'm like, oh, well, let me go see if we can't check. I might pay for shorts, blah, 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 blah. I go to log in, And we have two-factor authentication. My phone's over there on the next table, so I'm like, oh man, okay, so I can't check. I can't log in to check. And I was gonna ask Neil, but Neil already had a lot going on, so I'm like, you know what, forget it. So I can just move on and try something else. But yeah, here we go, $2.
Oh, it's too late?
Yeah, it's too late. The risk would have been high anyways, and I would have had to pay for the shorts, so I would have been dragged into that trade. But I was stopped. External forces have stopped me from trading that, but it would have been a decent winner, at least for now. It is falling apart after breaking that 52. And again, this is what I was concerned about, right? 52, when it's this obvious, when there's a round number and you know we're sitting on some support, they got to maintain some strength here, especially if the breakout is obvious as this was, right? If they can't, it's a stop run, flush down, trap short. That's essentially all this is, and the short is way better on these types of moves than the long would ever be. So it's those situations where you kind of want to be aware of that, and if you ever see that, just jump on board on the short. Another trade that would have worked out well, Caesars, again, this one I waited too long. This is the 5 minute, I gotta get to the 5 minute chart here. But 110 long, remember we're looking for decent strength above 110. If we got above, we need to stay above. Blah, blah, blah. Well, we did get above and we stayed above. And I actually had an order here. I don't know why it got canceled, but there is an order. I will put the order back. 110 long on Caesars. Again, stop on this would just be underneath about 107-ish. I still got to figure out exactly where I want to work with, but it's going to be about maybe $3.50 in risk on the Caesar long.
Yeah, so with the breakout at 7 on Small Direct, they just took a little bit more out here. And IPHA, I said I'd go to OPAD, and I'll get to that in a quick second. IPHA now barcoding at 10 even. It did make one test at 11. Of course, there's a lot going on. I ended up missing out on that opportunity. If it comes and puts in a lower high off of this 1090 high halt price, I'll be looking for like a 1050, 1060 short in front of that 11 even, guys. And then OPAD, OPAD, which you might remember was a runner, and I'll go higher time frame first so we don't miss out on anything. This is a couple of days parabolic into this, another one of those like recent SPAC type plays. A big consolidation all morning long here, right around like a 17 quarter, and then you had like this higher low around 17 and a half. Now I said I'd short the pop. I'll give it to that 17 quarter range, see if we can't work it to the $15 bottom that it currently is putting in, guys. And I just mentioned, yeah, being patient on IPHA. I mean, like 2 seconds ago, I was like, yeah, you know, let's be patient with it, allow it to come into us, and then of course now this is flushing. You know, we had all the signs that this was going to be the top, and I didn't find my way into the short. This is a tricky thing, and sometimes if you ever see me only going in one direction, often in these names, it is really tricky to have the long and be managing where do I get out, and then at the same time be contemplating the reversal. So if I really like a stock, think it's going to have a huge reversal, I'll sit out the long and hunt for the short because I tend to make more money doing those. In this particular case, as great as the long was on IPHA, I've definitely missed out on my opportunity to short it. It's already 10 o'clock, and that means happening now with Brendan. Let's go to the big screen.
Hey guys, yeah, still red, unfortunately, for North American markets here. You can see the S&P 0.5% to the downside. The Dow following suit about 0.25%. It's the NASDAQ leading once again. Worth noting tech stocks here, 0.7, 0.54 for the 100, and the composite to the downside as well. The Russell's in positive territory here in Toronto. We're also higher. A bit of a bounce back in some metal prices today. Has mining stocks higher. Robinhood, we were talking about in the pre-market here, still decent volume. I mean, it gave you a bit of a trade here, 42, pretty clear level up to 42.5, still only 1.7% for Robinhood. Asana not doing anything at all after that impressive move yesterday. That was all-time high, so watch that level from yesterday. You can see we're kind of testing the bottom end of the range for ASAN.
You know, what's funny is I was talking about bros, and then I looked up at the chat, and they're like, so many excuses. I'm like, yeah, I got to own it. There's so many excuses. I don't want to pay for shorts. But I was going to force myself to do it, but then I'm like,
everybody wants to see you pay for shorts.
Yeah, then I'm like, my phone's over there. It's too far. I'm too tired, blah, blah, blah. You're going to see so many excuses. I'm going to have to be dragged to pay for shorts. But in this case, my phone was actually over there. You could, but I'd rather you trade and focus on making money than get my phone. Let me just work on STC, because that is a trade that's working in my case. Right now, you have it, I believe, as well. He's got the 7 long, I've got the 680 long. It's at 724. Again, no targets to the upside, so just let it go. Management on this trade, there's no targets. We have no resistance levels that I can see that we can work with. So in this case, let it go for now, though. Risking 20 cents, it's already a 45-cent winner. So that's fine. We just got to work on that. We got to let it go and see how far it wants to go. PLTR, okay, we're above 29. That was a breakout trade, or the trade I was looking at, but it is stalling around 29. It was able to absorb some selling back into the 28.80, so I'm giving it a chance to go again. If we can take 29.20, I'd feel more comfortable about this long. But for now, though, I might have to cut this trade if this doesn't go, especially if you get in, and as soon as you get in, because you choose a price for a reason, right? If you get in and it doesn't go or do the action that you want it to do at that price point, then it's entirely possible that there's more to it, there's more resistance behind the scenes or whatever the case is that makes you hesitate a little bit. In this case, 29 was my price point, and now we're stalling at 29, between 29 and 29.20. So that makes me think, okay, is there something I got to worry about now from the sell side that would ruin this long read for me? So for now, I'm just going to keep an eye on this. I'm going to give it a chance, but it doesn't look too good on PLTR, but at least SDC is carrying itself. And futures still working these 40s, so we're gonna have to see if we can actually grab that long at some point. If there's no long setup, then obviously the shorts are gonna have to be the read. The primary read is the short, because the breakout is the easier read to make. But for now, though, we are gonna keep an eye on these futures at support.
I got to do this. We'll give it a fist bump because I love Arun's method of analysis. It's always fun. Like, this is one of the reasons why I love the program, even just like sort of going back and listening to everyone talk. It's different perspectives. Sean's, myself, Arun's, Brendan's. That's what a trading floor is all about. But you made a reference, and I got to say, look, man, you're going to say let it go. I'm letting this OPAD go after taking, got the top 17 here and then got some out at 16. And I'm going to let SDC go because we got that breakout. It's looking pretty good. And the reason why I'm going to do that is not because it's part of the plan. It is part of the plan. It's because the cold doesn't bother me anyways. And if Sean was here, and again, happy birthday, Sean, he would get that reference. Arun.
I'm too young for it.
Arun, when you have kids, you're going to understand exactly what I'm talking about, because my dog, it's from Frozen.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Let It Go, the song. Idina Menzel, unbelievable singer, by the way. It's just, my daughter has an entire hidden world in her mind. It's called Elsa World that she talks about, and she doesn't have, people have imaginary friends. She has an entire world that is called Elsa World, and when she goes there, it's a deep dive, and that's what kids are, look, it's a lot of fun. I'll hit a key because that's what we're supposed to do, and I'll drop this one, which looks better in the two shot. Like, this is really cool when you're in the buddy shot because then it lands right in between us. But Asana, like I said, I'm not going to start taking anything out until it got to 117. I've now done that. Now if it pops in, and if it wants to be range bound, then gosh darn it. I just said gosh darn it. Oh.
Yes. He said gosh
if it
darn
wants
it.
to be range bound, I'm probably going to reload around this 119, 120 if I can get it again. And every now and then, you guys can see how much of a nerd and how lame I am by, whoops. And that is me making a monstrosity of a keystroke error. I just typed that. I'm looking at the screen and talking to you guys, looking in the camera, and just typed in an order and just offered $120,000 instead of 120.
Oh, good.
Why that order didn't reject? Well, okay, I know why that order didn't reject because that kind of gives something away. But obviously that was a keystroke. You just saw it pop up in the chart. That was a ridiculous offer. Thankfully, if it wasn't if that was a bid, I would have just punched it in long. Anyways, I'm going to go short in front of 120 on a reload, and you guys just saw me make a monstrous keystroke error.
Don't do that, guys. That can get very expensive. I've done that once, not cheap.
Thank God it was an offer.
Yeah, so yeah, worst case scenario is when you accidentally cross the wrong price and you have enough shares to cross multiple levels and take out the offers along the way, and then the stock comes right back down, so you're priced above where the market is instantly. Don't do that. Avoid keystrokes as much as possible so you can protect your capital. So know your keyboard, know your layout, and even as much as you know it, it still happens. As much as you try to avoid it, it still happens. But for now, it looks like Caesar is coming back into that 110. We are looking for that 110 long, 107 and change. Yeah, somewhere around 107 and change, 107.50 and 107. That's where my stop is going to be waiting. The other trade I've got, well, PLTR was out of the money, coming back in, bouncing back above. This is the only reason I'm holding on and not cutting this trade, because there seems to be some decent buy-side strength below this 29 as well. Even though we're stalling above it, there's something or someone or multiple programs holding well below 28.90. So we're gonna let it go and see if we can't get a breakout through the high, which is around 29.20. So for now, we're gonna hold on that. And SDC is still going strong. Someone was asking, how do I trail? Okay, so the way I like to trail is I like to see where the market hesitated last before we took our next leg up. In this case, obviously, the stop on this trade at 680 was about just underneath 660 and change. So 20 cents in risk, and then we took 7 even. Can I move my stop? No, because it just went straight up in this case, right? So can I move my stop now? It looks like we stalled at 720 and came as low as 710. I can argue the 710 for half my position to lock in about 30 cents just to cover the risk. I still prefer not to do the entire position because we never really traded back a whole lot, just a little bit. So there's not a whole lot of volume that I can trust on the sell side. I just like to see how much selling came in, how far they were willing to take it back from the high or the move up. And then if we took another leg to the upside, then I would argue that would be the point where the sellers stopped selling and the buyers came in and took the stock back up. So at that point, I just move the stop below there. And I'll do it all the way up. In this case, 710 for half. And then the rest I'll leave at 660. And the only reason I do that is because 7 even, the round number is sitting just below. And I'm not a fan of getting out or putting a stop in front of a round number. But in this case, I'm protecting half and letting the rest go just because I don't want to get caught in a false move down to 7 and then back up to 750. You know, in this case, it's just a matter of protecting my position, not necessarily the net, because I know the net's going to be fine. So it's just a matter of keeping myself in the game or in this trade. If it decides to keep on trending, then at least that way I'm part of it, not just getting out for no reason.
Yeah, and that's what you got to do. It's at the end of the day. Like sometimes it's not about the P&L, it's the trade management. I did get in Corvus finally, CRVS here. 96 is going to be my entry price. I'd take more in front of that high of the day. It did make that flush that got us into it at just after 9:30. After trying to break the high of the day, that's why I like the lower consolidation for the short trade. We're going to go to Brendan. I'll come back and I will better explain what happened with that keystroke error and why it didn't cost me anything. Brendan.
One from yesterday, guys. SONM, just reading on a couple of things here, about 20% already to the upside here. Big volume coming in at day highs as well after that move we saw yesterday in this one. But SONM on the move.
He's quickly going to add that anytime Brendan mentions a name that's on the move and it's not on my quote board, the first thing I try to do is add it. So I said I would properly explain the thing on Asana very, very quickly here. Asana looking pretty good so far. And again, like it's it looks better in the higher time frame. I like the 15-minute chart for these things that I expect to hold all day long. But so what ended up happening is when I wanted to offer here in front of 120 at 119.80, as I'm typing the order in, I didn't put a decimal place in, right? So I ended up offering like literally like $11,000 or whatever it was. If it had been a bid, I would just remove liquidity from like there's an offer here, like you just punch into the long, which to me would have been punching out of the short that I'm sitting in. So it's not like it would have been the end of the world. So the offer just goes out and I just cancel it because it's never going to fill, right? But imagine a scenario where you did that to the sell side, too aggressively to the downside. Like you're just going to hit the bid into whatever the one. Like I might have hit the bottom. Like I could have punched in at the bottom. I did it after I was taking profit out at the low. So I don't want to get into this. Now, thankfully, it was an offer. So it doesn't cost me anything. But if you ever make a keystroke, I saw someone say, if you ever make a keystroke, just bail on the position. That is 100% the correct thing to do. Just bail. You didn't want it. You don't have to hold it. I understand liquidity can be a concern, but if you try to make it a winner, it's a bad idea. There are extenuating circumstances because sometimes there is just so much risk inherent in the liquidity, based on the liquidity in the stock, that you have to manage the position. Most of the time, you should just get out. OPAD just bounced off of 16. If it puts in a lower high here after this great wick short at 17 even, like if it can't break past like 1680 here and comes back in, it could be worth a reload in the 1660 range, but it's got a 10-cent spread. I want to make sure we're managing that. And of course, as you were just talking about Smile Direct there, Arun, it comes right back in. Why am I like missing every single dip buy on this stock? It comes right back into this 7 even range. Now, obviously 675 was the jailbreak price and you got 635. It held the pre-market low there. You got VWAP the entire time it's been bouncing off. I think people are just buying the dip in front of VWAP. I kind of feel like I should be reloading in front of 7 even, which I'm going to go ahead and do just to get more skin in the game here after we took the 7 break. I've only had the breakouts and I've missed the dip buys. I missed this dip buy. I missed the dip buy back at 675. So I'm not going to miss the one here at 7 even. We've already taken profit out of this like 3 separate times. So adding back in, again, it's just more about being part of the move and making sure that we manage the trade overall. Just to come over back into, I know HLBZ is still going nuts. I've walked away from it. The first long break was okay, and then I thought it was going to go jailbreak through 19. It then stopped me out flat. I then tried the long through 19, then that didn't work. It is going absolutely sideways, but, big but here, You have a 1920 top on that last break that it couldn't get through. If it continues to hold the line at higher lows, first at 15 even, then at 16, we're really just coiling up for another break. And on a stock that can halt like this, if it doesn't flush after a down halt at the open, and then starts making a channel for a breakout, then you want to have that breakout. So I'm setting up here for a 19. You can call it 1920 or 1925. I don't think it matters. If you want to give it to the quarters, fair enough. I'm going 1921 break. As long as we hold the series of higher lows on HLBZ, I will be taking that long. We don't have locates on it, so I'm not, even if I wanted to short, I couldn't be doing it anyways, but looking 1920 long on HLBZ, so long as we hold the higher low pattern.
Yeah, so I looked up the chat. Someone said Lucid's on the move. Yeah, Lucid's a name that I was looking at earlier. We were talking about 22 on the bottom, 23.50 on the top. And Lucid got below 22, but it was just a quick run. No real, I would say volume, but no real ability to stay below 22 even. So that confirms the support point around 22. So for now, 23.50 was going to be the upside target for me if we can get above. 23.20 was the high, overnight high. And then 23.50 is where I'm putting my trigger. So it's going to be a matter of getting above 23.50 and then trading above 23.50. If that's the case, you go long. 22 and change would be the stop in this case because we took out 22, as low as 21.90. I'm going to let it go a little bit, maybe 21.75. It's going to be a soft stop, meaning I'm going to have to let it see or let it come down and see how it trades before I make a decision on whether I'm getting out or not. But for now, Lucid is bouncing within the ranges. It's holding well. 23.50 on the top and 22 even on the bottom. STC, like I mentioned, 710 was going to be my trail point on half, so you see my exit there. And then I've got half left. Stop on this is still the original 20-cent risk. So I've already made 30-something cents on the first little bit. And like 29 cents, I think, on the first little bit. And then I'll risk 20 cents on the remaining portion. So even if the second portion ends up negative, I still come out ahead by about 10 cents or so. So, I mean, that's the only way you can try to hold this longer, and the only way you can try to manage trades is by willing to do that. And there's obviously arguments that can be made for if you're in the money, don't let it come back, blah, blah, blah. Absolutely. It's just, this is what I prefer to do just because I like to let trades move around a lot more. What that also means is that I give back a lot more profit in doing that. But I give chances for stocks to move around, mess around, and then take their time with it. And it's just, I feel better trading that way. So I just kind of let things, or let stocks do what they want to do. PLTR, I keep looking at PLTR and I'm like, do I get out? Do I not get out? Again, that 28.90 support below there is making me stay in. For now, it's allowing me to say, you know what, there's some support here. We can give it a chance. The risk on this wasn't that high, so we'll just give it a chance to see if we can get that extension above 29 on PLTR. And futures coming back. Okay, here we go. Futures coming back into the 30s now. We're in the low 30s, coming towards the low. 44.25 is going to be the bottom. I'm going to keep my eyes out. Remember, shorts are available below there, so I'll keep an eye out and see if I can grab some shorts. I'm also thinking now if we bounce without taking out that 25, if we bounce back above 45 or 50 even, I might go ahead and take a shot on the long side as well on the futures.
Corvus going absolutely bonkers there just a couple seconds ago. I just went to my 15-minute chart just to get a higher time frame look. It's still holding 420, but I mean, it broke up. I got what was the top very, very temporarily, and then it slammed back into 390. I got my bids all around VWAP there, and then it just suckered up smacked it to the upside. It's about to take out that 420. I'm getting out of this one. I'm not reversing long on Corvus. And there's a lot of chop. I was just looking at the 15-minute here. There's a ton of chop, even on a 25 break. You have levels at 35, and then up here at like 450. So I don't love the reversal into the long. I mean, I can forgive anybody if they want to be taking it, just because of the sheer volume that this put on here. But I look at the daily chart and don't love a break at that particular price. Like long and hold. Like if you're already long on the gap, and like this, when I look back at this, look at 350 here. Why was it not an obvious dip buy at 350 is the question I'm going to be asking myself pretty much the rest of the day. Anyways, away from that, I just want to look at this here, and if it takes at a level along at 420, risk to reward, I mean, you might have some support where we just saw it 85 to 90, maybe 370 or so, but I don't like the fact that you have chop 435, 450 are obvious levels that are standing out as resistance, so I'm only getting out, not reversing. Back over to Asana, it's about position management for me at this particular point, guys. It continues to, ASAN, and of course, Asana's on New York. I'm just so accustomed to these being, NASDAQ stock, right? Like it's 4 letters, it should be NASDAQ. That's how it's supposed to be. It's trying to crack this bottom. Once it gets through like a 116, I mean, like Arun said, like sometimes you're just managing the trade, guys, and it's just more about, okay, like allow it to fall. I could sit there on the bid at like 110, 111, or maybe you start thinking about where it had this resistance here at the top here, like 114 even. If it breaks 114 and gets into this range and breaks down here, I might trail it to 114. Other than that, it's about pure management. OPAD, which was going so well, and we're like, let it go, hold it, hold it, hold it. It finally broke that 1725. I reverse into the long. I always take it out. It's like, why do I always cover a little bit at the beginning? But this time I only covered a little bit. I'm actually holding on to the rest of this. So it holds 16 even, holds the higher low. That precludes me from getting into this like reload short trade, which I might have liked. We break into the long when it takes out that 1725. And here's the difference. The only reason you have to me, I have to have it out in front of 18 is this actually put in volume, well, a little bit of volume at 7 o'clock when it flushed at that $18 price. So on any breakout long, even if I'm trying to hold it longer than I normally would, I'm still covering it in front of 18 even, just based on the fact that it had a level there. And if it breaks that 18, fair enough. I'm probably hunting for a short at 20 anyways on that OPAD. We talked about Smile Direct being a little bit of an ad through that 7 even price. Whoops, Smile Direct, of course. And of course, a 3-letter symbol, Smile Direct, that's on the NASDAQ.
All right.
It used to be so obvious. It bounced off 7 even. I want to take some out if we get to that quarter mark again because I am scalping this trade a little bit more than Arun is. So when I get those quarters, I'm going to try and take them.
Yeah, somebody was asking get a little bit more education on what I mean when I say go long on the futures. Okay, futures in our system is called, we have it listed in, again, this is assigned for us specifically as ES/Z21 CM, because the market extension is CM, but the Globex code, here I'll pull the Globex code for you guys. This is directly from CME, it's Z1. So depending on who the broker is that you guys are using, is gonna be ESZ1. You gotta figure out how they've assigned it in their system. But again, CME, it's a CME product. So futures contracts, remember they're leveraged 50 times. So each 1 point that the futures move is $50 per contract that you take. If you want some more info, just go on their website and look through the specs. It kind of details exactly what their trade times are and what their valuation is and how they're settled and stuff like that. So more detail on that on CME's website. But for trading it, what I would do if you don't have access to this, again, margin requirements, there's a lot of different things that go into trading futures. Margin requirements are higher on all the brokerages and whatnot, so it's not going to be a direct cash purchase because each contract is worth about $225,000 or so. And I think they want like $10,000 or $15,000 in margin in your account for one contract. So just be aware of that aside. Or ahead of time. Now, futures contracts, in this case, I trade directly with the futures contract. These are the ES minis. If you want to trade something else that's more retail oriented, there's called the micro ES as well, which is 1/10 of the value of these. It trades the exact same way. Let me pull up the chart on the micro. You're going to see this. It looks exactly the same. So in this case, this might be where you start. If you've never done it before, just start with this before you go up to the other contract, because that one can get very expensive very quickly. So just be aware that you have the micro ES at 1/10 of the value. The option as well is to maybe trade the spiders. Spiders is the ETF equivalent of the futures. Trades the same thing. A lot of people like to track the spiders instead of the futures because, again, it may not be accessible for everyone, right? So if you want to trade the market as a whole, the S&P 500 basket as a whole in one shot, this would be the easiest way to go if you don't have access to futures contracts or the margin requirements if you can't meet them. But just be aware that if I decide to trade them, I'm trading them very similarly to how I trade stocks. Obviously, the way I'm looking at them are slightly different, but it's going to be just, I just flow better with the way it moves, quarter point moves on the futures. Let me pull up the chart. Actually, I'll come to deal with this after, but for now, we've got Brendan at the big screen with what's happening now.
Hey guys, yeah, we'll talk small caps here. A number of them today. Amazing, I mean, Neil was talking about whippy price action. There's a real lack of liquidity. It's hard to get any kind of fill either direction, it seems, today. We'll talk about the metals company from yesterday. You remember, a huge move up to 16, came all the way back and then some. We're chopping around here. This gave you a decent opportunity off of 12 at the open here, down to 10.5. It's coming back to that level right now. Everything creeping back to the upside. It would appear today it's a bit of a theme. IPHA, yeah, I got stuck in that halt initially. Was able to save something anyways. As we saw over the past couple of days, these huge movers have come all the way back and then some. So I'm kind of feeling like this one might do that same type of move. So 10 and then 11 above that now for IPHA. We'll see where that one stops on the way back down. And CRVS, yeah, I stood up here just before the open and said, it's very, very strong. I like this a lot higher, 450 and then 490, and then I was just fighting myself all morning. I even said it needs to trade back through these levels to get any kind of move back down to where we were yesterday. So still might get that opportunity at 450 and then 490, guys, for CRVS.
Don't hate yourself, Brendan. I fought that same stock, and I'm sitting here over, and everyone's like, yeah, that was a great short on IPHA. Like, keep in mind, remember, like, I never even got it. Like, we were calling it as it was going at the top here. What we were seeing, and both Arun and I were talking. I hope it made sense, and if it didn't, then maybe it's worth. Maybe it's worth doing this one for the trade of the day, or just going over it and rewatching the video for those of you that didn't catch it. But it was pretty obvious that we were catching a top here, and that's why I was able to get out of the long. I just flat missed the short. There's just no way around it. I mean, it was so. I hate the word obvious, but risk to reward, it was there. To get anything short in the 11s. When it consolidated below the halt price, it was there. I got an accidental short that I didn't want to be short at 10.30. I kind of wanted to be short here at 10.50, so I just got out of that in and out flat. And now you're going all the way to the downside. I've missed this trade completely. I'm not going to go back and try to make magic happen that isn't there. Now, certainly, if it wants to make another pop and a lower high, it could be worth it. But like I just said, to your point there on Corvus, Brendan, I reversed OPAD and made that short win and then a long win, and then CRVS, I don't reverse this trade, and now it is jailbreaking towards that 450. So I feel the same way as you, Brendan. It has to break down below these levels before I like it again. I do want to get us beyond meat because, hey, there are some big cap names that are also moving in this market, believe it or not. And beyond meat here, load. There we go. I talked about the reasons why it was a great short yesterday, and I didn't like it. The news came in the afternoon and completely changed the game here. It was going all in the money for me, and we got stopped out when the news hit in the afternoon, unfortunately. That's why I wasn't shorting at the same level that I absolutely loved yesterday. I kind of said, like, yeah, it was good for a 108.50 break. I'm not going to pretend that I would have had this trade because I wasn't taking this breakout, and I said I wouldn't take this breakout at 9:30. I wait for it to settle down. You had to have that break pretty much like right at the open. There was a chance at a bit of a dip. At that particular point, I was preoccupied with those crazier movers, and there's just no chance I was going to try and manage like a thinly traded beyond meat. But it is now off to the races. We do have an upper bound of a range that could be interesting, but I want that to settle down some. Back to a trade that I am in, which is going to be Asana. And by the way, this is the first time I've actually typed this in correctly as a New York stock, the first time, so I'm patting myself on the back for that. I usually get it wrong a million times. I'm going to cancel that order. I remember offering it like 119.80. Go ahead and cancel that order. If I get more shares here, I don't want it spiking up like this. This is actually on low volume, so it might be worth an entry point. If you weren't in this already, not a bad entry point there. But if it comes up, I want to make sure that we're consolidating and rolling over if I add to this position. So I'm going to calm this one down a little bit. I can hold on to it. It looks like I've got the general trend in Asana anyways, and if it takes out the low, we should be sitting pretty. The overall market's still looking pretty bad, and there's one name that was on the watch list that I want to get to, which is Take Two, because it's right back here at that 150 level. And give me a break. We'll go to the daily chart here. Here's that 150 level that we had talked about. If it holds below this price, there is air below it. It's a key level, big time, you can see on the daily chart there. And then we look at it just sort of barcoding. And this is barcoding by the definition for this stock. I know it's $1 worth of a range, but it's consolidation. You have had some breakdowns on this before. I'm now thinking if we want to hold this 150, now it'll be like a third or fourth time on the 15-minute here. I think it's going to turn into a bit of a short opportunity. The only problem with that look is this is what's happening over in the NASDAQ. Now, Arun's talked about the futures. The only thing that concerns me is you're making a bottom. And I do not like taking short on something like that take two if we're actually holding a low. So if we get a pop and then start to level off and maybe even fade a little bit or break the lows, and I still get a chance at the same prices in take two, fair enough. But I won't be shorting that level 150 when we're sitting on the lows and trying to bounce on the NASDAQ here. It just feels a little bit reckless. It kind of heightens the amount of risk that is put on in the trade.
Yeah, I was looking at, was it Lucid? Lucid was absolutely going towards that 2350 that we're looking at. And here we are backing off a little bit. Now 2350, again, that was a marker that I had just to avoid. Remember, 2320 had some, was the overnight high, and I was worried about stops. And that's still the case here. The fact that we're stalling in front of 2350 makes me think, you know what, at this point, if we came back underneath 23, traded well to the sell side, at that point, you got to be worried, would stops have been taken out? That's what's making me hesitate. Otherwise, this is long for now. At the moment, we're still in a holding pattern on Lucid. Trades that I've got already. Caesars has come back. I picked it up on the bid. Remember, this was a 110 break. I was willing to take on the pullback, and here we are out about 30, 40 cents or so. STC, again, half out at 710. We're letting the rest ride until 660. I'm either going to get that new high or we're going to get stopped out and make a net of 10 cents between the two exits. PLTR, there was a little flush there underneath 2890. Again, I'm in a position where there's nothing I can really do at this point. If I wanted to get out, it doesn't make sense to get out here, so I've got to take the hit in this case. I either give it 20 cents or lose 20 cents right now. And given that the long read was there and decent support for a little bit around 2890, I'll just let the long go. Caesar, and the other one I just picked up, well, CRVS. We were talking about CRVS. Neil was talking about CRVS. And CRVS above that 420. I picked it up, what do I got? 22, I believe. 422 is my long there. Stop on this isn't going to be that high. It's going to be just underneath 4. Given how much trading we've done to get to this point, we should not have a comeback below 4 even. Obviously, I'll let this go and trade a little bit below 4. If we were to breach 4, I'll let it go. And if the buying can't maintain strength below it, at that point, I'll just cut the trade and walk away. But for now, though, we've got 4 longs. And 2 of them are in the money. One of them, Caesars, is trending to the downside, and the other one, PLTR, I'm kind of stuck in. Somebody was asking as well, can we trade futures options? Yes, there are equity index options. Again, I'm going to advise you guys to go directly to CME. Go directly to the source. In this case, CME Group. If you look at it, they've got contract specs on the option side of things. Keep in mind, part of the index, part of the expiration, one of the 4 legs of the quad witching is the index options expiring. So that is available for you guys as well. Spiders, again, that's an ETF. They should have options. I got to double check that, but Spiders is available there for you as well. So options, for anyone who wants more data, just put them in the chat. I'll go through the chat because I really don't have a whole lot more positions. But if you have more questions, just put them in the chat and I'll answer them when I get to them.
Take advantage of Arun when he's here. I say that every single time, but we get different perspectives, and that's what it's all about. So sometimes I just love letting hear him talk a little bit there. I want to get to Brendan in a quick little second here, but before we do that, I just want to quickly say about DATS, D-A-T-S. This is a huge reversal that it put in off a double top at 9 even, and then it just made a bounce. This is not a lot of volume on this bounce on DATS, which makes it a fade in front of VWAP for me. So I wanted to get that one out there. I know we're talking about DATS a couple of times. I have not put any positions on, but low volume bounce after a rejection like this, I am shorting it in front of VWAP. Now we're going to Brennan.
I'm just checking on this work sport, guys. 2 days in a row, we've had quite the move for WKSP. Just popping up again here, day highs on volume, so 15% here for WKSP.
WKSP in Cincinnati. No, I'm just kidding. That actually, I forget what the actual show is, but that's what came to my mind because I'm not actually old enough to know that show. If for those of you out there going to talk about it, and I just went to put an offer out on DATS and realized we don't have free locates on it. But you know what? $8 stock. Arun, I will go ahead and pay 3 cents per share. So I'm going to go ahead and lock that one in there. I'm chiding at Arun here because he never pays for shorts.
Nope.
If you guys are just tuning in now, you'll know that to be true, and I'm confirming it anyways. But I like that DATS. partly because of the flush that it put in, and that was a big drop after a double top at 9 even. You got a lower consolidation below the pre-market high. There was some chop here right off the open as well. You got VWAP as well in play, guys. So I like this roll. I did miss out on the chance to get 30s there. Not a huge deal. I can park right back in that same 30 price, or maybe try to take some at 25. Just jump in at 25, add to it at 30 if I can get it. But I like this roll over here, just how weak it was when it made that flush, and then immediately holding below that pre-market high. And the low volume pop, yeah, I'm all over this one on DATS. Brendo.
Just saw this F-Cell, guys, teaming up with Canada's own Ballard Power on a new deal. So Fuel Cell, a name we look at all the time, teaming up with Ballard Power on a new deal. So they're up nicely today. F-Cell, 1.3%. Let's get a check on how things are ending off the week. In fact, over in Europe, Miss V is watching what's happening over there. What's up, V?
Hey Brandon, European markets are mostly negative. Mining company Anglo American is down almost 6% after UBS and Morgan Stanley downgraded the stock and cut their price targets. Back to you.
6 out of 7 days, guys, setting up to be negative, unfortunately, heading into the weekend.
Yeah, unfortunately. And there's another stock that's going to be down. I'm going to cover it because there was a question in the afternoon show. And of course, reminder to everybody, at 11 o'clock is Memes and Movers from 11 to 2. And then we're going to be back, of course, at 3 o'clock for Power Hour, which on witching, you know, is going to be some excitement at the close. That goes without saying. But on the close show, we talked a lot about BBIG. Today, my executions, I guess, aren't showing up. And we talked about this breakout sort of mirroring itself. This is going to eventually load up here. Yeah, these old executions will show. But see this long that we had at 880, 875, 880, going back to the 7th. The chart's not even filling in. It puts the trades in first. That's always fun. We took it out right at this 940 level. And then you come back, and I'll zoom in here so you can see. This rollover a couple of days ago, on Tuesday, right at that 930, 940, that same price area again, it then dropped like an absolute rock. So in yesterday's action, when we're looking at the same breakout at 875, I mentioned I'm getting out 3 times at about the same price areas as before, right? And that's exactly what we were looking to do. That's what happened. It ended up being the top because, hey, look, if it's going to resist the top here twice, because obviously when this chart ever fills in, we were taking longs into these levels before, puts in a lower high at 1150, then comes back and gives you the same range bound trade for the same break and can't get through there. And I told people if it could not close above 875, it's not a good look for this stock and it should test the bottom. That's what happens here. The only mistake, and I always call out all of my mistakes, if it was good for that long, I should have been looking for a reversal short around that same 875. And look what happens. That same breakout price. It goes through a 75, stalls at 80, and then comes right back into the low. It is now testing those bottoms. I'd be absolutely shocked if this does not, by bare minimum, test yesterday's lows at 760, those support levels. And unfortunately, sometimes we get the questions, and it's like not what anyone wanted to hear, because if you're swinging this stock long, I couldn't say anything good about it, despite only being long the last like 5 times I've traded it. It couldn't close above that 75, and that wasn't a good look.
Yep. Like I said, I've got 4 positions. You can see them on the screen. I'm just going to manage the ones that I have, right? I'm not going to get too active. So for now, it's just going to be the 4 positions, but I am going through the chat. Much love to you, Lori, for loving the chat there. Amirazing says, does double witching mean there's going to be a big sell-off, especially because it's Friday? Not necessarily. It's quad witching, so there's 4 different things expiring. Like I said earlier today, it was going to be the index futures. September contract is out of commission as of the end of today. Then you have the index options, you have the single stock futures, and you have the stock options as well. So you have 4 things expiring today. So quad witching, which means volatility. That's all it means. It doesn't necessarily mean selling off. It just means extreme volatility when as soon as the imbalances come out. So there's going to be legs to this, right? After 3:30, you're going to have buy programs, or not buy programs. You're going to have program activity preparing for the end. So there's going to be a pickup in activity just after 3:30 or around 3:30. Typically, there's going to be programs being turned on anyways. It's just going to be a little bit more volume being done through them. And then at 3:50 is when the imbalance information comes out. And because there's a rebalance being done through the indexes, you're going to have larger imbalances, which means more volatility in the stocks, and obviously some of these stocks are major weights in the indexes, so you're going to have volatility in the indexes as well. And then with the expirations happening, add more volatility to it. So there's going to be a lot happening, especially in the final 10 minutes. But expect the activity to pick up from about 3:30 going onwards. 3:50 is when things really start get going, and then 3:55 is when we get the floor update, updating the imbalances. Again, we'll go through all of this at the end on the afternoon show. So that's one thing. There was another question in there. How did I get into futures trading? So there's a story with this. There is a story. I didn't just accidentally step into it. It was one of those things where when you start off as a trader, you try to trade almost everything because you like, oh, maybe I want to trade that, or trade that to make money, or trade this to make money. And you get to this point where you trade everything or a lot of different things, and you come to realize that, you know what, I'm just better at this. It appeals to me more, and I can kind of be a little bit better with making reads and more accurate and blah, blah, blah. So that's why I've kind of just gone down that road, just because I found that I was a lot more accurate in that direction. And why would I waste capital everywhere else when I can just put all of it and just get bigger and bigger on the futures, right? And that way I can actually maybe not trade as often, but at the same time, when I do trade, I don't have to trade that often because I'm trading much larger. So that makes more money than trading everything under the sun and then trying to scramble and make pieces here and there. So that's just kind of the direction I went in, where I've traded from pretty much like the majority of the financial markets around the world. I've traded Tokyo, I've traded most of Europe anyways, traded Australia, I've traded a lot of different markets, and we've just gotten to a point where I'm just better at one thing than everything else, and I just decided to kind of focus on that. So that's kind of the story with that. Again, I'm going through the chat, just looking at more futures-related stuff in this case. For now, though, we are waiting for positions to fill. Oh, PLTR just filled, so just in time. PLTR, again, I was concerned about that 29 break. Held on just because I thought I had some support at 28.90. That didn't work out, so we did end up losing about 30 cents, 35 cents, or no, it's actually more, about 40 cents or so on PLTR. So we're going to let that one go. The other two, SDC coming back. So if this nets out just underneath 660, we'll come out with a 10-cent winner on the average position. Caesars is bouncing a little bit off that 109, and CRVS, again, I looked at this and I'm like, where do I put the stop? Because we got a decent amount of trading activity, so above 4 even, so I'm gonna leave the stop just underneath 380 to give it a chance. So for now, we got 3 longs and we're just waiting for them to come back around. Brennan?
A couple things, just saw OPTT popping up here, Ocean Power, one of those clean energy names. Not seeing anything terribly exciting on that, but heads up on OPTT. Also, CNC, which is Centene, Humana, apparently interested in possibly a deal for CNC here. It just popped up on that, guys.
And another stock just popping up there, and I don't know, we'll hit one of these because this HLBZ, if you're long just the entire way, you're laughing. I had muted success here earlier on, but we just took a 19 break into 20 even, and I want to try to hold on to the second half of this trade because I keep thinking, you know, this stock having held those higher lows, having held sustained a downward halt, right? Like you had a down halt on a parabolic move. I mean, that's a hard rejection at 19 and halting down, and then you're immediately testing a breakout. And I tried it the first time, it didn't work, and I had a tight stop on that. But the second time through, it tests that level and holds 19. And then it holds a higher low again. And we said if that happened, I'm going long. I already took out in front of 20. Now I'm holding through a 20 break. And even if someone wanted to take a 20 break long, I'd probably scalp that if I were you. But this stock for me, I want to hold through that 20 even break, guys. See what happens on HLBZ. If it looks like it's going to halt to the upside on the 20 break, I would take the profit. That'd be in front of 22 even. But HLBZ once again off to the races. I've gotten out of my Smile Direct. And I said, I just didn't want to give the day back. And I just tweeted this one out because it ends up being kind of like 2 trades in one. Like you have the original breakout trade, right? Where you take target 1, and it's a longer term trade. And I'm thinking I can hold on to that one. If it breaks 750, you get into that $8 range. But once it fails at 750, I want to get out at that 670. And then you had that 7 even break, which, you know, essentially you're getting all out of it right here. And then I took too many shares out. So I'm like, yeah, I'll get back in at 7. And realistically, this entry here should have been waiting for like 680 or 670. And that's the thing about separating 2 things at once. You try to do 2 separate trades in one fashion, and you can kind of muck things up, which I think I did by entering this back at 7 even. That should have been more at 680, but I still cover the trade out of Smile Direct Club. I might come back into it if it holds the absolute bottom. Let's see what happens. You guys are going to Brennan at the big screen. Market is now down over 1%. That's a lot of red there. Let's see Sector Watch.
Hey guys, yeah, it's the NASDAQ leading. We're going to talk S&P here, just 0.74 currently for the S&P 500. Materials standing out right front and center. Very, very weak so far today for the materials sector. NUE, IFF, FCX, all 3 to 4% in the red. But this entire group, you can see, not a single stock in positive territory. Healthcare stocks outside of a few individual ones. That's TMO, 7.2%, CNC as well. We talked about with Humana there, so up 2%. But everything else pretty red, including Moderna here, 2.25% to the downside for mRNA. Tech stocks leading. You saw at 10 o'clock there, the NASDAQ under the most pressure out of all the markets. CTXS standing out there, 0.8 to the upside in positive territory. Everything else, though, to the downside. So very, very red for technology stocks. Industrials down here as well, following suit. Also, the entire group, you can see, in negative territory. On that side of the board, it's worth noting IVZ here in the banking sector and LNC, 2.6% and 6% to the upside. Otherwise, banks are weak. Real estate stocks, energy weak as well. FANG, F-A-N-G, had some news. They're up on that, 3.9%, but even the energy group under pressure. So outside of a few individual names, it has been pretty red so far. 0.72 now for the S&P, guys. Back to you.
Yep.
Thank you, Brendan. I just want to update. I didn't mention I got into that take two position. The market broke that low of the day, and once it did, I was still able to short that 150 level, which I said would be a condition of me taking the trade. So I am now into take two to the short side. It's only 50 cents in the money. And HLBZ, I mean, it's kicking me. We don't have locates on this name. And every time I see a top like this that I'm thinking I'd probably be taking a shot at a short, instead I'm trying to hold the long. So I just got out on break even, tried to hold through a 20 break. It stalled at 20.50, so I tightened my stop up to 12 to 19 even to not give up the profit like we did the last breakout, to have a relatively tight stop. And then it sets up again for a short trade that I can't do anything about, by the way. Like with no locates, it can jam back in here. I can definitely desire the idea to short below this previous high at 19 after you get that failed jailbreak. The previous resistance, if it can hold up, I think turns it into a short the same way it did for IPHA that we were talking about before. This has been stronger, at least I want to say, because it's held 16. But no, I'll check again for locates. If we get them, fair enough. But this is a time of day where you don't want to be over trading. I'll tell you this right now. If you've been, any day trader will tell you on a witching day, options expiration, even on a rebalance session, you want to leave some of your I guess dry powder for the close. Don't get yourself shut down. Don't overtrade. Only take the setups that work. Manage your positions at this particular time of day, and don't hunt for things that may not be there, because there is going to be activity in the last hour, and a lot of times in that last half an hour, momentum-wise, that are going to be worth it for you to be able to trade there, guys. So I'm going to go see if we finally have some locates in HLBZ. This one feels like it's going to be a good short, and I get the sense it's going to go without me. Yeah,
and that's a key, right? On a day like today, where you're going to get a high volume of activity or high action at the open and at the close. Throughout the day, once a trend's been established, if there is a trend, in this case, today's trend was to the downside. Once the trend's been established, it's probably going to just leak in that direction until we get enough volume to change the direction. Are you going to get enough volume before the end of the day? That's the question too, right? Odds are no. Because what's the catalyst? Unless there's a catalyst that says, you know what, there's a reason for this market to go back up. It does look like it's going right after the bottom end of that range. And once the bottom end of the range goes, there's a huge resistance level sitting above you. So if we were to bounce back into it, odds are anyone who's caught on the buy side would be offering in to provide resistance for any for shorts, I guess. Or for actually any moves to the upside would be resisted by any previous buyers. So it's just one of those situations where the market's leaking. Clearly, I've been on the long side and I've made money on one of them. Two of them are sitting, one's flat, two of them are out of the money, and PLTR is the only one that got stopped out. PLTR got stopped out. Again, we knew there was something going on around that 29, but again, I wasn't willing to step out of that. There wasn't enough. I was just going to let the stocks trade. You see me, I'm not that active today. I'm not. I typically would trade more. I'd be more invested in the futures as well. And this is the wrong contract. I was actually putting that out for you guys. I want to go back to the ES contract. I am ready to potentially get short on the futures. It's just a matter of how are we going to play this area. how are we going to get below 25? Are we going to trade below? Are we going to snap underneath, come back above? There's a lot that I got to go into looking before I take a trade on the futures, but it is something I'm looking at now because this could be something that sets up, that essentially sets up, goes sideways, and then starts to go at the end of the day. If that's the case, then I want to be positioned for it now, and then I'll hold it for the few hours that I got to hold it for before the move happens. But again, for now though, it's just 44.25 is the potential support point. 44.50 is where I would give up on the short and go for the long. But if we break 44.25 before we do that, then obviously I'm out of that whole, we're going for the long thing, long idea. 44.90 was the top end, so that's still going to stay. We're going to use that tomorrow, or Monday. We're going to use that for Monday as a potential level to work with. But for now, it's just short side moves. We saw Microsoft start to leak, and then Microsoft went. Apple was going as well off the open. You see Apple's move. So Microsoft and Apple are the top two names in the indexes, in the NASDAQ and in the S&P 500. So just be aware that when these two stocks move, there's like 6 of them that control, in the NASDAQ at least, 6 of them control about 40% of the index. Out of 100, 6 of them control 40%. And then the same 6, I think, control about 20% on the S&P, which is 6 out of 500 control 20%. So it tells you how much influence they have in the indexes. So just be aware that when these start to go, especially trend in one direction, there's very little that can be done from the other side, because it would take a bunch of other stocks to offset the moves from Apple and Microsoft to stem the bleeding in this case.
Yeah, and just as the market continues down, I'm going to take some of this take two out at the low of the day here, right in front of that 149. And then I'm going to try and rinse and repeat, because if it wants to have the patterns that it's done previous sessions where it sits in like a $1.50 range, I might as well just take the dollar out of it over and over again if it wants to give me that opportunity. I'm going to keep looking at that HLBZ, but like I said, stopped out. At some point, if I'm going to take the longs on this thing, I got to start holding them, but this would be a setup. Like right now, you're going back and forth at that 19 level, right? And that was that quadruple top, or whatever you want to call it. There was one break here, but effectively a quadruple top that got put in. That stopped out the last long we had, which was looking like a good break to 20 even. With this battle going back and forth, if we hold the lower end, now break down, you could be looking at an 1850 short with a 1950 stop, and then 16 is your target because that's the obvious level. I can't do it because we still have no locates, but if it holds this 1950, I think that's what I'd be setting up for. So if you're long, your cover is 16. Make sure you want to be risking to that level. Brendan is already at the big screen for Money Talks because it's 10:50 already.
It is indeed. Let's talk currencies, guys, real quick. We'll give you a rundown of how things are shaping up. U.S. dollar top end of the list here, strong again today. We've had 2 days in a row of pretty positive, in fact, economic data from the U.S. So nice pop here, 0.2%. We're actually off the highs there for the DXY, so it was higher than that. As a result, we'll come down here to the Canadian dollar over on the chart there, down 0.5% on the session here, 78.5 once again. So we're breaking this recent support level, 78.8, 78.7, trying to make lows here on the CAD back towards 78.5 for that. Yeah, British pound lower, the Japanese yen, Swiss franc popping up a little bit. We've seen a little more volatility coming back into markets again, once again today. So Australia, New Zealand lower. As a result of that, once again, same story for cryptos. Not a heck of a lot going on in crypto land today. Pretty choppy, guys. Back to you.
Yeah, you know, I was actually going, there was a question in the chat that I think this is the second time it was posted. It was a question about me looking at the 10-year note, because it's up 4%. Is there pressure on the stocks because of that? You would look at for anyone who I guess would be more inclined to look at things like that. This is the answer for you guys there. It's something that you would look at. It would help on a typical day, but on a day like today, I wouldn't say ignore it, but it's not as important, because something I also look at is a TLT, which is a 20-year on the NASDAQ TLT. Just keep an eye on that. That kind of reflects the 20-year Treasury as well, and that's actually down on the day, down 0.65. So what you tend to notice is the 20-year, if it goes up, market goes down. Bond auction happens at 1 p.m. You can look on the Federal Reserve website when. Typically, I think it's every day at 1 p.m. And if there's an issue with the bond auction, or if it doesn't have as much interest, or whatever the case is, you're going to see the stock index move, because that relates directly to the macro side of things. But on a day like today, this isn't a macro issue. This is a much more specifically related to the components in the index. Although you see the 10-year note moving, you also have stocks that are important like Apple's, Microsoft. It's more of a rebalance slash rotation through the portfolios issue than it is a monetary issue. So just be aware that is not as important on a day like today, because there's a much more fine-grained issue that you've got to keep an eye on. That is the individual names, and that's why you're getting the pressure, because the individual names are moving the indexes, moving the stock futures in one direction, and that's what you're getting, right? But on a normal day, you do want to pay attention to the notes, the 20 years, the 10 years, anything that can help you understand how the influence of the rates are going to be and how the macro side of things look when you trade the index futures. But for today, I think just put it aside and focus on the futures on its own, and maybe look at the big names in the indexes.
That's all we say to that. Like every now, yeah, again. And sometimes, look, if you have to watch some of these back, I strongly recommend it there, guys. So I also saw someone drop a nice reference from one of my favorite movies, which is Airplane, which is absolutely hilarious. I do the gag about the drinking problem in Airplane, but I don't want to actually throw water on my face. That would be quite disgusting. I did want to talk about a stock, and I'm not trying to ignore Gree here, but former support.com, it just continues to fall. And why close eyes and short the thing isn't just the modus operandi here is beyond me, because another drop of 10% on Greenidge is even before the deal happened, it was falling on the final day and has been getting absolutely crushed. A bit of a double bottom here, but I got to find a way to be on the short side of Greenidge, because it's been free money. Brendan?
This iron net just popping back up, guys. Remember the past couple of days really hasn't done much today. It is down significantly, obviously, from where we were yesterday, but just breaking back to the upside. Excuse the wicks. The chart doesn't look like much, but it just broke back to the upside here through 34.5 on volume there for IRNT.
And here's the thing. We know it's $2.70 a share, and I've talked about it. We've all said how we're not paying that price to short it. I mean, give me a break. If this was, I thought this could even be the day that there's a nice, easier downtrend for it. It does the 930 pop and fail, and I'm not saying I'd be short at 37 here, but I can promise you this: if it would have been 50 cents or 60 cents or maybe under $1. When it comes, the locates that is, when it comes back up after bouncing off 33, and then you're putting in this lower high after already failing the top once, and then this 37.50 is going to hold, that is an absolute short setup at 36.5. It gives you a clean 10% move into the downside. But just to prove, you guys know I would be trading this. It's just there's always a price you're not willing to pay, and $2.70 a share completely skews this trade. Where you go from shorting 36.5 with a 38 stop to effectively that's like $1.50 plus slippage risk. So call it maybe $1.75 risk. No, that is $4.40 worth of risk on that short trade, and then suddenly getting the win of 10%, which is like $3.50. That's not even 1-to-1. So this is where I'm getting at, where I'm not just going to say, hey, take this trade because it's a great setup. Well, if paying for the shorts turns it into a negative probability, then you can't actually take the trade, and pretending like it's profitable doesn't do any of us any good. So I can't say that this setup is any good because it would have cost too much to put the trade on. So unfortunately, that's why no short IronNet for me. No short HLBZ because we don't even have them. And take two, I said I would rinse and repeat if I get the chance. The first part of that has been true. That's way too aggressive a stop order. Let's cancel that. First part of that has been true. It's not really moving a heck of a lot, so I'll just jump right back in front of that 150 level. And I might play this at lunchtime, where if it comes back in here and I can short off of these highs, just go back and forth. I wanted to be on the south side of this trade, below 150, as long as the futures are looking relatively weak. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do here. Only about 3 minutes to go, and you will be going from us right to memes and movers with Trader Pratt and Miss V. And as a reminder to everybody, no, Sean did not all of a sudden become the strongest man in the world. This is Arun. He's doing a fantastic job filling in. If you're tuning in late, it's Sean's birthday today. So we wish Sean a happy birthday. And I'll say it right now, make his day, man. Everybody, don't go into his DM for birthday wishes.
He would love that, though.
I'm sure he'd absolutely probably love it. But I'm sure he's sipping a cold one. He will need to, because it is going to be 35 degrees with humidity this afternoon.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, exactly. 35 degrees with humidity. That's Celsius. For you Americans, that's like 95 Fahrenheit. Yeah, 95 Fahrenheit, something around that range. Really, really hot it's going to be for us here today. So hopefully he's sipping a cold one.
Well, okay, and then people are going to ask, and everyone's wearing a hoodie inside. Guys, you got to understand, there's an AC vent that's blowing right at me. I don't know how Neil's sitting there, but it's right over there.
I'm not.
But
I'm fine.
For me, I find it cold in here, so I'm always wearing a hoodie. Hey, trade however you want. I trade comfortably in a hoodie, so I'm always wearing a hoodie. So I'm actually just going through the numbers that we have to see why. Someone posted Visa. I was like, Visa was absolutely on a tear. I was like, what happened here from 224.50 all the way to 219.50? Like a $5 drop. So the first thing I do when I see something like this in a name like this, I'm like, okay, how much needs to be done on Visa? And that's what I'm trying to find in terms of rebalance information, which we do have internally. I just got to go find it. But again, it's just one of those things where there might be some movement in some stocks that are unusual, and it might be because of the, again, rebalance happening at the end of the day, because it needs to be done. And at some point, if they can do it at the open, and if the volatility is going to be too crazy at the close, they might do it throughout the day, slowly throughout the day, and then it might get done. The rest of it that's not done would be done at the end. So just keep an eye on Visa and some other names because they are getting thin. And hey, keep an eye on the chat, right? Because the chat is putting some stocks up there. So I am looking at them as well. Just look at them, pull them up on the chart, see if they make sense. And then if you like the chart, go ahead and make a shot, right? Take a shot on those. But for now, though, it's just a matter of, for me, I'm just going to manage the three that I've got. We've still got that STC, which is flat now. CRVS is out, and CZR is bouncing around. So we're just going to wait for these to play themselves out. STC is bouncing back from that 670. So this might actually be a re-entry for that first half that I got out for 30 cents. We're just going to wait for this now.
And we're going to go quickly to Ms. V as I see HLBZ break the high of the day naturally without me. Ms. V?
Hey guys, another week came to an end. I hope you had a great time and had a lot of profitable trades. Please don't forget to smash the like button. Happy birthday to Sean. And if you wish him happy birthday, you can smash the like button and he'll see that. Also, we are back at 3:00 p.m. Eastern Time to trade the close. And me and Prad can't wait to take you for memes and movers. Happy National Apple Dumpling Day, everyone.
Yeah, buddy. You can't hate on an apple dumpling. Brendan, I don't care what you say. Those absolutely delicious in my book. I got a thing for pastries, for sure. Brendan, come on, apple dumplings. Yes, yes, yes.
It's I mean it's pie in ball form. So
yeah, it's just a pie.
How can you go wrong?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. See, every now and then, Brendan is on board with a tasty treat. You guys have an absolutely tastier treat coming. That's horrible. A tastier treat coming with memes and movers. Trader Pratt and Ms. V are locked and loaded, ready to go, taking you into the afternoon as HLBZ is going absolutely nuts. We will be back at 3 o'clock for Power Hour on Witching Day. So without further ado, Trader Pratt and Ms. V.
Hey guys, welcome back to Memes and Movers with Trader Pratt and this beautiful Ms. V over here.
Thank you, Brad. And hey, guys, I hope you're all doing nice. Welcome back, everyone. Let's have a wonderful last day of this trading week together. Please be active on the chat. Write us name you want us to look up. Write what you trade and